Kooky.
Happy Monday, everybody. We had two mishaps happen right as we started the stream at the exact same time. Brian's mic, his arm on his mic broke.
Oh Jesus!
Or it was loose, and so I guess he was adjusting it the wrong way, and it came undone. And then he pushes it doesn't break the mic or anything. And so I'm go to put the mic back on the arm, and I knock over his whole fucking thing of Topo Chico.
No.
So now we have a slightly cleaner carpet.
Heck of an operation there,
We're
guys.
doing great.
That's why I pick Skittles up off the floor to eat them.
Happy Monday, everybody.
Yeah.
Let me see if AC is on.
A hell of a rave, man. This is the best. Great. This is an awesome party.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, it's hopping.
Dope tunes. We're all about to get turned up.
Do you guys have Halloween plans, or did you already do something over the weekend?
I went to a little shindig with Shannon Morse. Chick Morse's place. Ran into a lot of the old Twit fam.
That's awesome.
I did a couple things, and then I go out of town on the 1st, but maybe we'll see if I do something tomorrow.
How was your thing at the castle, Andrew?
That was fun. Oh, I did a lecture too there. Yeah, that was cool. It's good. They want me to go back and do my own lecture there. I did part of Rudy Kobe's lecture.
Nice.
And they're like, "Hey, would you come back and do your own?" I'm like, "No."
Yeah.
Done this place.
Wait, you performed part of Rudy Kobe's lecture, or you were just present for part of it, or
I did a section there. I lectured on something in his
Got
lecture.
it. You were a featured guest?
Yes, if you will.
Hey, we totally in the pre-show set up the lava tubes thing, and then everything got so interesting we never got around to it. Is that even worth revisiting?
Surely. I will take out. We could do a space show.
Hey, this just in from the chat room. Brian is getting old. Also, gravity pulls downward, and blue
I
is
think
a
he's
color.
just talking about your beard. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think that was the point of the.
Yes, it just occurs to me that it's interesting because we're all getting old. Like that's literally what it means to be alive.
Is it, Brian? Is it?
That's
I
the
mean,
literal
yes.
definition of being alive is getting older, right?
I mean, some people think the cup is half full. Some people think that we're all aging and marching
what it
towards
means
death.
to be living is getting closer to your death.
I haven't decided if I'm going to try it yet or not.
A beard?
Aging.
Oh, I mean, well, you don't,
He doesn't.
and you should really dive in. It's pretty great over here. Getting closer to death, you have fewer F words to give. It's pretty rad.
Well, when you do it because I don't age, I just stay tired looking longer throughout the day.
How was scaring the kids, Bri?
Say again?
How was scaring the kids on the?
Oh, it's pretty great. The legend of Tree Man lives in our neighborhood now. People really seem to enjoy it. Also, what's funny is when you're covered head to toe looking like moss, you don't mind dancing, and you don't care if the whole world's watching you because
I'm covered in moss,
covered in moss,
and I don't mind dancing.
Yeah, that's that old quote, right? You know, dance like you're covered in moss.
That was a Gloria Gaynor B-side, I think.
Yeah, that it? Yeah.
I'm covered in moss. Hallelujah. But I can't stand still. See, that's the irony. You're covered in moss, but you can't stand still. You keep dancing.
Love like you're caked in mud. Dance like you're covered in moss.
Pretty good. Hey, I'm pretty fired up for our month-long extravaganza. Like, in fact, let me text that person that we were talking about texting.
Yeah, please do.
I will do that right now.
Yeah. Any Tuesday except for the 7th, because we just got that booked in today.
Hooray!
Woo! And hopefully more are coming. But yeah, it'll be a good month. Need to figure out what we're gonna do tomorrow. Would it be funny if we did a Christmas themed episode or a Christmas themed bit, even though it's on Halloween?
Well, the thing is that we do those like shows though, so like we I don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll figure something.
How about the daymare before the nightmare before Christmas?
The daymare before the nightmare before Christmas.
How about we celebrate regular Wednesday, the less celebrated day after Halloween, leading into where everybody buys their Thanksgiving preparation materials. Hot deals on turkey basters on regular Wednesday.
Yeah. Great deals on candy.
Yo, just insane. It's called Candy Day.
I had an thought on the drive over here that was that 2017 has been so awful that what if Halloween was real this year? Just like,
are we at some point? Are we gonna like stop? Like, are we gonna understand that there is just bad things that happen in the world, and it's not the year's fault? I mean, we're just like more aware of things.
Let me be snappy. Let me make a joke.
No. I'm sorry to step on the joke.
Oh my god, that was the most adorable old married couple moment between the two of you guys. That was amazing.
No, you're right. I mean, there's nothing.
Well, it's just like
intrinsic
how
about
many
the year.
consecutive worst years ever are we going to have to go through before we're like, you want to know what? Maybe this is not a function of the calendar and bad things. Maybe these bad things have happened all throughout society. And now we're just kind of paying attention to it because it's in Twitter.
Sure. It's a good point. Maybe we should just get rid of Twitter.
I mean, there's that. Which is like, all right, let's just unplug from the Matrix or put me back in the Matrix. It's fine.
I saw an ad on a bus I was driving by today that said you can order food from Facebook now.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. But
Good. That's great.
I don't know if I'm ever just like, God, I'm so hungry. I can't click to another thing. I can't stay in Facebook.
I don't know if I'm like there going, how can I make Facebook a bigger part of my life?
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's like Coke ads. Like, why are there ads for Coca-Cola? It's one of the two sodas, and you either like it or you don't.
There's thoughts on persistence and I'm thirsty. Why am I thirsty? Oh, the trigger. For me, it's like Facebook creeps me out already.
Did I tell you about that fMRI study I heard about? This is like half remembered hearsay from almost a decade ago, but they put people in.
It's gonna be would be a science podcast. Half remembered studies with no supporting evidence.
The story, as I remember reading it, was that they put people in an fMRI and they showed them ads either for or they had them drink either Coke or Pepsi, and when they drank Pepsi, their taste receptors all lit up. But when they drank Coke and they knew they were drinking Coke, like they were told, here, have some Coke,
Coke.
their memory receptors lit up.
Huh.
That sort of implies like that whole the Americana, Coca-Cola on the porch with Grandpa, like that ad campaign has deeply embedded itself into the American psyche.
Yeah, let me pretend to remember. I think that was neural correlates of behavioral preference for culturally familiar drinks.
Yeah,
off the
that's
tip of my
amazing
tongue.
that
Yeah,
you're
I
just
think
able to
that's what
recall
was.
that stuff.
Ah,
This is why you're the best, man.
Thank
Dude,
you.
this is the best
yeah,
year
let
ever.
me think here. Coca-Cola, Coke, and Pepsi are nearly identical in chemical composition, yet humans routinely display strong subjective preferences for one over the other. That is not true. They taste different. This simple observation raises the
Man,
important
this is really
question of
weird.
how
It's like you
cultural
got two
messages
voices
combine-
in your head. I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah, no, that was a weird.
I'm the guy.
footnote.
I'm the guy. Like I'll order a Coke and I'll be at the restaurant and be like, I'm like, oh, what is this? And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, it's Pepsi. I'm like, why? Why would you lie to me?
Or just tell me that it's different.
I used to be very, very partisan in my cola choices.
Oh, really?
But then I read the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing, and one of the things they casually, like 2 sentences, just casually assert with complete confidence. Yes, scientific studies have proven that Pepsi tastes better. But when you know you're drinking Coke, you prefer Coke. And that's because of Coke's marketing.
When you say proven, a certain percentage of people or a higher percent might say that it tastes better, but it's not the same as everybody thinks that it tastes better.
Well, insofar as what it means to prove anything tastes better is that stripped of the ability to know what brand of cola you're drinking, the majority of people announce that they prefer Pepsi over Coke. Like,
Chris, the
Pepsi
majority,
100%
but
wins a face-off in every battle.
What's that yet? What's that?
Oh, I was just saying, like restated, it would be that Pepsi wins every face-off with Coke, and yet Coke's marketing and branding is so superior.
Wait, was this when they did the Cola Wars though? When they had people they did like a tasting, like one small sample, Pepsi one, but when they drink the whole can.
Yes, they did that, but no, that's not the data they use. They
wonder
were
how their
referring to.
sample size too. I'm curious. I mean, I have no reason to be like, it's false, but I'm wondering if that was it like, hey, just take one sip?
As far as I know, like, and it makes intuitive sense. As far as I know, Pepsi won so many double-blind tests that they decided to make a multi-million-dollar ad campaign and send people out to places just to let everybody experience the winning in a or in some kind of blinded test.
Right, and that's when Coke followed through with the whole can test.
What was the can test?
Well, the problem was they did the Pepsi test. They gave you a small taste of Pepsi. So the first one was very sweet and it was very good.
Oh, got it.
In the can test,
So the
after
experience
fourth
of
or
the
fifth,
entire can, by the end,
People
the
preferred
sweetness
Coke.
was tiring.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. But
Yeah.
Regardless, let's make this about me, which is what it was supposed to be. For me, that moment of reading that something could be demonstrably superior and yet culturally inferior, which I think is the case, suddenly let me say, like, well, if I like Coke, it's very likely because their advertising worked on me. And the moment I had that thought, I completely let go of any partisanship on cola, and I was like, well, it's all brown, dumb liquid, and I just let it all go.
I'm kind of if it's up to me, I'm pretty particular about my cola. Like for a while, I really liked the HEB cola.
Yeah.
Because for a generic, it's
by
pretty
the way, I did too. I used to prefer the HEB cola, the diet one, and then one day the thought bubblegum popped into my mind, and I was never able to taste anything but bubblegum, and I hated it.
Yeah, it tastes a lot like Pepsi in that it's a sweeter sort of cola.
Yeah.
And then, but I don't know. I think they both have their strengths. Pepsi versus Coke.
Yeah. It's what are we, yeah. I'm reading here where they're talking about how the single sip challenge Pepsi won, and then there's a there was the criticism was they thought Malcolm Gladwell wrote what is that his research shows that testers will generally prefer the sweeter of the two beverages based on a single sip. So even if they prefer a less sweet beverage over the course over an entire can. So
Right.
like on the single sip, you're like, oh, I like this is sweet, I like this, but over the can, you prefer some do. But there was another scientific findings do support a perceptive difference between Coca-Cola and Pepsi, but not between Pepsi and RC Cola. Anyhow.
Yeah.
Cool. You guys ready to do a show?
Nailed it.
I'm ready for a delicious beverage.
Yeah, I'm this segment brought to you by domain.com.
Oh.
When you're drinking a domain.
Yeah.
No.
No, almost.
It
It does look like a fake
Sell
soda we would have
soda
made
now.
for an ad, though. Mountain Dew Livewire. You used to only be able to get this in... Oh, no, I'm good. I'm good. All right. Take it away, Andrew, in 3, 2...
Welcome to the Weird Things Podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood
Hello, beautiful people.
and Justin Robert Young.
Hey, friends, I'm here.
Hey, so how are you guys enjoying your last days on Earth?
Wait.
What?
Did,
Oh my God!
wait,
I
did I
just
miss
thought
a-
it was.
Did I miss a
The
missive?
witching hour finally
Well,
come.
one, in
Halloween
our
will open up
pre-show,
a
Brian
hell
pointed
portal,
out
which
the
will
definition of
swallow
living
up our
is getting older.
life.
Wait, what?
We're both aghast. We just don't know
Yeah.
how to process the news that the world is ending.
Oh
I
my
mean,
God!
it is old. We know for sure in a long enough timeline, the sun is going to keep expanding until the Earth is absorbed in this big red bubble. So we've got that to deal with. There is, as Brian points out, part of living is getting older. There's that.
Yeah.
Um,
We're
but-
made of chaos and decay.
Yeah, entropy, my friend.
Merry
well,
Christmas.
I bring you. It's. What was the science fiction story where like some astronomical object enters the solar system at such like a weird sort of pattern or whatever like this, and
Like its
Independence Day?
motions are in a weird pattern.
like it comes in like something comes like there was a book series or a book where something comes from like sorry as I get excited about this like something we pick up on telescopes, something heading towards our solar system, and then something that like we realize it's only gonna like rendezvous with us for a short amount of time and then it's gonna leave the solar system.
Well, the one that's popping to mind, unfortunately, is the bummer of the book Seven Eves, in which that object is a fleeting microscopic black hole that shatters the moon and then destroys all of humanity. Spoiler. alert.
Yeah. Somebody says, what was that Rendezvous with Rama? Rendezvous with Rama, the Arthur C. Clarke story. Remember that?
Sure, I remember looking at that book and thinking that's one I should get around to reading.
Yeah. And I would have thought you would have read that, Brian, because it would have made my joke all the better, because I wanted you to say, hey, it's Rendezvous with Rama. I'd be like, no, it's today's news!
Oh, shoot. Sorry about that. At least the chat room was there for us.
Yeah, thank you, chat
They
room.
were there.
Next week on Weird Things, Justin Robert Young in chat room.
I'm off.
So these are the headlines I love. This is why we do the show. And it's a science alert, and emphasis on the alert. Astronomers are watching an interstellar object that's appeared in our solar system.
In other news, bus drivers driving buses.
No. Brian, let me read this to you again. Astronomers are watching an interstellar object that's appeared in our solar system.
Well, no. Well, then that's
Meaning
that's
not
much
from
more
our
interesting.
solar system.
That's much more interesting.
Yes.
So wait a minute. And by the way, we've talked about, I forgot the name for the term of the planet. We talked about giant gas giants, dark gas giants, just swinging around from system to system, floating around, possibly due to their own heat and pressure, with their own sustained life ecosystems inside.
You say that again?
We had talked about dark planets flying around.
Rogue planets, yeah.
Yeah, correct. And then we speculated about the fact that pretty much any place on Earth, where there's no photosynthesis, there's chemosynthesis, and instead, just as long as there's heat and liquid, life seems to bubble up. And we had speculated about the possibility of a rogue gas giant just floating through interstellar space.
Yeah, you could get any kind. You could get an icy planet where you could have geothermal, a lot of anything you could have. You could have that happen. In this particular case, and up until now, all asteroids and comets we've seen have originated in our own solar system. This is by David Neal at A Science Alert. Preliminary observations suggested this object that they saw was a comet, but now they think it was flung out from a nearby star rather than caught in the sun's gravitational pull. As comets from our solar system would be the thing. Things get more confusing. Initial readings were taken from the Pan-STARRS telescope in Hawaii, and judging by the orbit, astronomers hypothesized it could be a comet unlike any we've seen before. If further observations confirm the unusual nature of this orbit, this object may be the first clear case of an interstellar comet. Right?
So help me out here to contextualize this, because This does sound extraordinary, and it's great that we're seeing it, and I'm sure there are things to learn. However, I also have internalized, since the 80s, the message that pretty much anything on the periodic table made above carbon was forged in the heart of an exploding star. That's why the phrase "we're all made of star stuff," is so sticky. I don't know how to feel about this, Andrew. I don't know how to feel about this. Like on the one hand, it's great that we've identified it, but on the other hand, everything we're made of was from interstellar debris.
Everything in our solar system, as far as we understand or know, happened from the same accretion disk, the same part, the same little area here, happened from the same accretion disks, this little bubble here. Everything that has an orbit or comes through our solar system that we've observed so far has been there for billions and billions of years from, when the sun started lit up.
Sure.
Okay. That's why everything we've seen around us is from here. We have no evidence of anything ever entering our solar system from another solar system, from somewhere else.
I think I figured out how to categorize this in my dumb simian brain. The existence of the post office is not news or exciting. Getting a letter is very exciting. So the existence of interstellar debris making it into our solar system, not news. Us getting this latest letter, news.
Yeah, and something that's sizable, and we don't know that of all the objects we've ever observed, this is the first one we've ever seen. We've cataloged thousands and thousands and thousands of meteors, asteroids, etc., comets rather, asteroids, whatever, and to find one that we're now like, hey, this thing just came within 15 million miles of Earth, by the way, is.
How big is it?
I think this is the size on this. Let me pull this thing up there. It's not inconsequential either. I mean, it would be perfectly good it is the 525 feet across.
So if it were aimed a little bit differently, a little more lucky/unluckily, could be a planet killer coming in from extra solar areas.
I don't know if 525 would do it or not, but spaceship sized.
525 miles?
Feet.
Oh, then forget it. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Totally if this thing were 525 miles across, this would be like, one of the largest, be larger than many dwarf planets. That would be terrifying.
525 miles would be Texas. It's the size that's literally the plot of Armageddon we just described.
So 525 feet across. So that's a pretty good, that's half the size of a major cruise ship. So, that's a pretty big object though. Like I'm saying, it's perfect spaceship size. If you wanted to, go around and visit other solar systems, but you didn't have the capability to slow down, you would plot a trajectory like this. You would accelerate some object. You would figure out like, we'll go to this star here, we'll deflect here, we'll then go into this other solar system, we'll go around there and cascade around. That's what's going to be curious to see is like, when we start trying to figure out more of its trajectory, where did it come from?
What-
Where is it going?
What a fantastic short story that would make, because that's exactly how they would do it. They wouldn't build a spacecraft probe. Let's say if you're an alien intelligence and you've extended lifespans incomprehensibly long, thousands of years at a time, and you wanted to send a probe out, you, number one, would not just build a starship from scratch. You would actually, just for efficiency, you would place it inside of an asteroid, and you would sling that asteroid out, or possibly, even better, you would find an existing asteroid that was already moving. You would fly over to it, you would tunnel in, you would put all your sensors and your probe stuff, and then you would guide it with rockets and mass propulsion on such a trajectory that it would do this grand Lewis and Clark adventure around your quadrant of the galaxy, and then come back 1,000 years later with all the data that it picked up.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I would do the thing, use the asteroid as the body, because you're spending so much of your energy to propel dead weight.
Well, no, but that's my point, is you find an asteroid that's already you find a wanderer like this.
Oh, gotcha.
And then you're like, hey, it's already got the kinetic energy. It's going to go for the next 1,000 miles. If we just guide it a little bit and then build a tunnel network with sensors, then we get to take a tour of the whole galaxy.
Yeah, that would have been cool if like this would have been, had we known, guys, to have figured, I don't know how hard it would have been to try to create something that could accelerate and meet up with it, but that would have been kind of, because by the time you can meet something that can meet up with and accelerate it, you might as well just launch that object. But
oh, that's a good point. Although the probes itself, I would imagine the mass. Sorry.
Well, no,
too
the
nerdy.
scenarios where you want to do the hollowed asteroids, you're like, oh, we're going to land a little spaceship on here and we're going to colonize the whole rock. We're going to use the whole rock's resources, like you mentioned, and that's where the advantage is. Like, yeah, no, it's got carbon and water and all these other things we need. We couldn't carry enough water for the interstellar journey ourselves, so we'll just land on this rock that's heading there and use what's there.
Right.
So,
so what I suppose in the story of humanity's race to the stars, this is a good moment in that we recognize this kind of wandering guy around. In the future, maybe we try to capture them and study the pieces of DNA from other galaxies. Of mineral DNA, I guess, is what I'm saying. There is no such thing as mineral DNA, but I mean, like, to understand the origins of other exotics.
Yeah, it would be absolutely, because that would be getting a sample. Like, what you could do is, if we had known, is to have done, we could have done an impact, and we could have tried to get some fragments from that. If we did an impact, that would have allowed us to, or we could actually get a laser and burn off parts of it and observe the spectra, and that could tell us a bit more about it.
That's one of the preventative theories for saving us from an asteroid or a comet, right? Is if something's on a trajectory to Earth, one of the ideas, it's like, well, just send up a nuke. It's not that simple. Now you have 12 targets coming at you instead of one. The other is a mass drive. It's like you land a gizmo on it and you start flinging off pieces of the comet off to the side, and then it adjusts the orbit. But if I'm hearing you correctly, you're talking about the idea of firing a microbeam or a microwave laser at it to heat up an area that causes ejecta to come off of the subject itself, and then that we could study. Also, in my weird scenario, would push a comet off to the side.
Well, that's actually at the UC Santa Barbara Space Cosmology Lab. That's one of the reasons. A couple of the things they talk about using lasers for. One is asteroid deflection, is the idea if you apply enough energy to it and you create little explosions on it, you can move it. The other one is to use the laser to actually ablate materials and then observe what it's made out of. So multi-purpose. So lasers, space.
That's great.
So I thought this was kind of curious, this whole idea of an object from outside our solar system, which is, again, like, I've read a number of alien invasion stories. And that was where they started off with, was, here comes this thing from, hey, there's something in our it's always something just entered our solar system. We don't know what it is. But usually it happens much more real time. Somebody's looking at a radar screen or whatever. Or the good ones, it's like we're looking at these plates, these photographic plates, and we notice the differences there. Like, how many other weirdo objects are there like this? And I found out another one, which is 96P Mach-Holtz, which is a short-period sun-grazing comet discovered on May 12, 1986 by amateur astronomer Donald Machholz. And it's unusual among comets in several respects. Hold on. It has a highly eccentric orbit, 5.2-year orbit, has the smallest Perihelion distance known among numbered regular short-period comets, bringing it considerably closer to the Sun than the orbit of Mercury. It is also the only known short-period comet with both a high orbital inclination and high eccentricity. And it was found to be both carbon-depleted and cyanogen-depleted, a chemical composition nearly unique among comets with known composition. So it's a very peculiar sort of comet that has a chemical structure totally different from any one we've ever observed before. Which, dun dun dun, what's going on?
Do we think it's an orphan? Because I know that the solar system can sometimes capture orphaned comets just floating through space, and all of a sudden they get caught in the gravity well, and they're all like, this is as good as any place to die.
Yeah, it could be. It seems to have fallen into a pattern similar to some other comets, but just the appearance of it. But it's the idea is where did this come from? So, it is, I think, a candidate for something that is extrasolar.
So there is, this is interesting. So let's assume that our fidelity of examination is infinite. And I know that's insane, right? Let's say that we're able to see every single piece, a paint flake sized debris that enters the solar system. My guess is that we would be able to, and Justin, just tell me if this intuitively makes sense, that we would be able to find markers of origin for every single one of them, such that that strangely, rather than going out and exploring the universe, we just wait for the universe to come to us and figure out what came from where. Oh, Justin's muted. That's why. He's not giving me guff or refusing to answer the question. He's just muted. Also still muted. Welcome to the part. Oh, there we go. Okay, you're back. You're back.
I have audio on my end.
Okay. All right, good. Sorry.
That explains why everybody stepped over everything I've had to say this episode.
Sorry. What did you say?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
We're entering in. I think I decided, for those who are wondering what Andrew went, I had a Snickers, and I may have a peanut allergy. I don't know. I have strong evidence that may be the case now.
Wait, hold on. No, hold on. Press pause on everything. Breaking news.
Yeah, wait a minute. Now, Brian's finally. Brian has studied and been fascinated his entire life by science, but there is nothing that he can spring into action with more knowledge and foresight of than dealing with a peanut allergy.
So how long have you been suspecting this?
I was at I was in Montana, and I was at this staying at this ranch, and I'm standing at this table. There's a bunch of peanuts, a bunch of shelled peanuts there. I'm eating some peanuts, and I'm talking to somebody. I'm like, hold on. I need some more peanuts. And I'm like, yeah, peanuts always seem to make my throat dry. And I'm talking to Jack Horner, the paleontologist, the scientist, Jack Horner says, he goes, that might be your body telling you something. I'm like, huh. And I noticed a high correlation of what just happened to me is because I don't have the peanuts, I'm inflating whatever thing, but I do my throat tends to.
You're not anaphylactic.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm every now and then I'm like, well, let me try some peanuts, and I'm and it's hard because it's not a how would I describe this, a double blind test.
Right.
But I have noticed a correlation of peanuts and all of a sudden throat irritants, etc.
Well, and keep in mind also there's the middle ground of peanut sensitivity, which is different than necessarily peanut allergy, right?
Yeah, and that's what it probably is. It's probably peanut sensitivity. So yeah.
That's we could do a whole episode about some of the amazing advancements happening in that regard. That's weird.
Oh, I keep thinking I'll just keep trying them to just build up some sort of resistance to them again, So
there's science to back that up.
Yeah. Back to your earlier comment, Brian, though, about the compositions and figuring out if we can know everything out there. one of the projects that we have going on is people are looking more and more seriously into space mining. And one of the things you'd want to do is send up as many probes as you can and maybe use lasers and other things to see what's out there and start getting, composition maps. And we're going to discover some very, very interesting things like the crashed spaceship on Mars as we start looking out there to see what else is in space. The more data we have, the more information we'll have on what's out there.
Agreed.
Yeah, man. I think that's a whole element that, like, when we talk about like how little we know about the ocean and stuff like that, and how little we've explored.
Andrew's note: they let the crashed spaceship on Mars just slide right by.
Well, I thought you were using poetic imagery to describe a probe that we sent, and didn't go back to examine the rest of the sentence.
I can just go back to being muted. That's fine. Like, if Bryce just wants to hit that button again.
Well, gentlemen, I would like for Bryce to pull up there's a couple different ports. Is this a crashed alien spaceship on Mars? I need both of your reactions to this when we get the image there. I should have sent it to Bryce, but I just relied so heavily on his ability.
I didn't realize you were talking about a
I
specific
did not realize
thing.
this was a
yeah,
real thing
I
that
totally
was
thought
happening.
you were just waxing poetic on our visitations to there. So
we have an image here. Can you describe this, Bry?
yeah, did you see the end of Stranger Things? This is what the kid puked up. Only it's on Mars.
Shut up about Stranger Things.
Although
Only
this
it's
is presumably huge.
yeah. It looks like, to be honest, it looks like a lava. I don't know, emerging lava flow. Justin, what does your gut say?
Yeah, it either looks like the whole little like smear there is one object, or it's like some crash landed carve out like that's like carved out in the ground maybe.
Yeah.
But it definitely looks like a
looks
feather, to be honest with you. It kind of looks like a feather without the stem.
To me, it looks like the surface of Mars. I don't know, something cracked it open and a bunch of planet blood seeped out of it, aka lava. That's what I'm calling lava from now on. Is planet blood? Yeah.
Oh my God, honey, don't go there. There's planet blood, and boy, is it boiling.
That's why I became a planet phlebotomist. I'm here.
So we can play a little bit of amateur sleuth here, and this has obviously caused a lot of speculation because this thing's like miles across. It's pretty big. This has caused some speculation as to what is it? What is it? Now, I call your attention to, let's examine this around there, and let's whenever you're trying to determine when you're looking at, let's say, planetary features, etc., the shadows. So what do the shadows tell us?
Well, I'm seeing Bryce's comment in the chat saying it's an indention, not a mound. It's really weird because it does look like a mound to me. In my mind, the sun is at the lower right-hand corner, and it's hitting two slopes. One is the mountain above this object, and the other is the kind of frontal part of what looks like a carapace almost. I don't know. Enlighten me, please.
Well, that's what it comes down to, is trying to figure out like where is the sun? What should it be doing? And so if you look at the shadow above, what appears to be a ridge above it, and where the shadow's being cast from there.
Yeah.
The one that goes at an angle from the tip of it to the top.
You can also see a little fringe here on some of the edges.
I meant the other shadow, the one like go above that object.
Sure.
Yeah, the mound. Well, and here's the other thing too, is there is some distinctive they're black geological patterns, but I could understand how somebody would think they look like scorch marks as something crashed into the surface and drug across the ground. I don't think that's what we're looking at though.
Yeah, and the consensus seems to be that it is an indentation. Although, I mean, the shadows to me look tricky. I don't think it's not to me. It's not like it's an obviously. If you look at this shadow here,
No.
It's like
It's a bit like the gold and white versus blue and black dress thing, where if I squint, I could see it both ways.
Mars was jealous about all the viral attention that got. So, they're like, we got to get in on our own.
See, now I've primed my brain to really see it as a divot, as an impression in the surface, and now it clearly looks like that to me. Wow, that's wild. That's wild.
I mean, the consensus seems to be that it is an indentation that it may have been caused by a meteor impact.
So it is a crash-landed spaceship of sorts from the stars.
It's like the Superman trench, like when he landed in the Cool movie.
Yeah.
Out there in the cornfield.
Man, I'll tell you what, I need to go back and watch it again, but I think I might be becoming an apologist for Man of Steel. Like, the more I think about it, I did not see Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice, but the more I think about Man of Steel, the more I think, like, that was a solid version of that familiar story. And it's okay if I'm wrong. I'm not asking you guys to convert or anything.
I'm going to leave myself muted on this one.
Yeah. All right, it's fine.
No, I don't know. I didn't mind it walking out of the theater, but the further of a picture we get of Snyder's DC universe, I don't quite know how much
I minded it walking out of the theater in the middle of the movie.
Oh my God. You also walked out of Gravity, though, and then went back and watched it again and decided it was pretty good.
It was that first thing that was just everything annoyed me about it. But once I got past that, I was great. Loved it. This was, like 2/3 of Man of Steel when he gets punched into an IHOP, and I'm like, I haven't seen a single. I don't want to get into it. I'm glad you like it, Brian. Glad you like it.
Punched into an IHOP should be Superman's autobiography.
And it's bully. His bully from high school is there. It's like it's great. It's this.
I hope they reference
IHOP.
that in Justice League. Like when he comes back from the dead and Batman's like, oh, you're back. And he's like, yeah, it was the second worst thing that's happened to me aside from that time I was punched into an IHOP.
Let's move forward.
It becomes the central thread of how to defeat Steppenwolf. He just has to remember back to that one moment when he gazed upon the short stack pricing while he was punched through the IHOP.
And he said, "The Rudy Tooty Fresh and Fruity is the one true way."
Like, hey, I would have thought the roughest thing for you would have been just standing there in slow motion watching your father get, sucked up by this very convenient tornado.
Yeah. No, allow me to die, Clark.
I thought maybe the guilt for like making your mom work as like, a waitress, your elderly mother has to work as a waitress, while you're like literally the most powerful man in the universe and you could just, squeeze some coal and give her diamonds. A little bit of guilt. Well, my mother said she liked it. She's supposed to say that, you idiot.
Oh man.
Anyhow.
I'm hungry for pancakes, though. I've got a Superman's hunger for
Martha.
pancakes now that we've talked about this IHOP. And I'll tell you what, now we have the money to pay for it thanks to patreon.com/weirdthings.
Heck yeah, man. Head on over to patreon.com/weirdthings. Why don't you become a card-carrying member of the Weirdos Alliance?
By the way, lawyer's note, we don't give you a card, so you're going to have to make your own.
Well, I mean, I assume you now have our permission to print out a card and to carry it. That's how it works. Thank you.
We want you to hand us your cards when you see us at conventions and out in public to let us know. These are not cards so you can identify yourself to other people. You need to print out a card and give it to us when we're out, so we know to treat you different than people who don't hand us cards.
Also, why not make the card put our names and faces on it? Because you already know who you are, but it'll be helpful for us to remember who we are.
Who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. This will be a very important thing for you, me, and really the card industry as a whole.
The card industry has really fallen into hard times.
It's really been punched into an IHOP lately, and we need to make sure that you get it back. Patreon.com/weirdthings. Not only do you get the satisfaction of supporting this show, but also you get early access to After Things, which is our show we do after Weird Things about creativity and the modern world. Many people are saying it's great. So you want to call them a liar? First, you got to listen to it by going to patreon.com/weirdthings.
Yeah. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get on my spaceship,
Yeah.
go to Mars or maybe the moon, and I'm going to live in a lava tube.
Well, hold on. We've talked about lava tubes on Mars. It's not like we just discovered some kind of gigantic, miles and miles big lava tube on the moon that suddenly indicates that it would be a great place for us to immediately land and start building up.
Well, it was mentioned a couple of years ago on one of these podcasts, but that's okay.
Oh.
But it didn't make it into the big news until recently.
So what was the big newsworthy element to this?
Well, there's been more. We've had speculation as far as what could be the size of lava tubes, and we've observed, like on the moon, the surface feature what you call like a skylight. Looks like a hole in the moon, and in there we like wow, it's dark down there, and like yeah, like it's probably because there's a big tube down there, a lava tube, if you will. And then what's happened, we've added some more confirmation because we've been able to send these little probes around the moon that have been measuring the gravity at different points. You have mountains, your gravity gets higher. You have valleys, your gravity is lower. If you have less dense ground, that you get this uneven gravity map. Like the Earth, you look at the gravity map of the Earth and you realize, wow, this is kind of variable. In the areas where we've seen what look like could be the entrance to a very, very large hollow area, we've also discovered a curious, it's less gravity. It appears to be there's a lot of hollow ground there, implying a very, very large lava tube.
Did we ever talk about how lava tubes are formed? Is it a case of just like lava's flowing and then the lava flow slows down and a bunch of the lava, gravity pulls it into porous cracks or whatever and leaves a vacant tube? That's what I've imagined, but I don't know if that's the case.
I mean, there can be different kinds of formations, but if you go to the lava tubes, let's say in Oregon, and they're amazing. They go on for several miles. They're really, there's a lot of them. I've been to the ones there most recently. You get, as a super hot rock pushes through the rest, the rock that's a little bit, has a lower melting point. It finds these different points of which it can make its way through, and it kind of it forces its way through a path of least resistance, and then finally reaches an outlet point, and then you get a lot of lava flowing through there, and you get more of it, so it just keeps going. And then once it starts to cool, that lava compresses considerably, and then so it all of a sudden you have this volume. It takes up much less space, and it might erode over a period of time, etc. So it starts off if it's this big, as it heats, it expands, and then once it cools, it contracts, and you're left behind with a tube. Now, on Earth, our gravity is more than the moon. I know, amazing fact, guys. You heard it here first. And that means that when you're talking about 10% of gravity on the moon, it means that you're going to get slightly different physics. You're going to get tubes that are bigger, okay? You might get lava flows that go much further, which will be the case on Mars, too. In this instance, this is the estimate here. But let me give you the estimate. If scientists' gravity analysis are correct, the lava tube near Marius Hills could easily house a large city such as Philadelphia.
That's
oh my God.
Big.
Wow, it's really dark in this lava tube.
Yeah, we're hiding in there. So as long as we've been talking about it, I've been thinking about what it would be like to live in tubes, whether they're hollowed out in a asteroid or whatever. And one of the things I keep stumbling across, and it's very visual when I look at the photos of lava tubes that Bryce was just showing on the big screen.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at like 9 different skylights into, there's clearly massive underground structures there.
Well, and specifically when I look at the lava tubes that we know on Earth are, bored out by lava, basically, I am astonished at how many physical places it reminds me of, of like, in Minnesota, you don't go out on the street and cross the street to get into another building. That's what are you, a savage? No, they have tube technology. They build tubes. When you're in Las Vegas and it's 100 billion degrees, you don't walk on the street like a savage. You walk around in tubes inside of Las Vegas. And
That's my favorite experience in Las Vegas last month. Was just
walking through all those tubes. So here's what I'm getting at is I wonder if we know that humans, when we left the savannah, we hid in caves and we lived in caves. And I wonder if there's some kind of core comfort that we take from living in tube-like enclosed areas. And it makes me think about the future of humanity. What if we returned to the caves? And I'm guessing that we would probably feel just fine living in lava tubes, and it would feel like the world.
We may have been burrowing animals before we were tree monkeys, too.
Oh, really? Is that a thing?
I mean, I think most mammals, probably early mammals, probably spent a considerable amount of time burrowing. So, that's another thing.
This is a return to form for us.
Yes, finally, we're going home, and home
Yeah.
is on another planet now.
You want to know what? We had enough of this surface dwelling lifestyle. Let's go back to basics.
So to give you a sense of how big this thing is, this is not like Fringe. This is sort of like, no, we think this thing is. Again, they show this map, or they show an image, and they show 1,000 meters. They show the city of Philadelphia in one end of it, taking up a quarter of it, and this is just understanding. We're looking at a sideways look at it. At 1,000 meters, you could have like, let me do the math here. 5. You could fit like 5 Superdomes in that space. So we're looking at like 20 Superdomes across. And if we do our math to figure out like this, roughly 300 or 400 Superdomes worth of surface area.
I mean, at that point, that's as big as. So imagine that you paint the top blue and you have a light that approximates sunlight. Like, you could live your whole life in there very comfortably. There are people who live their whole life on Manhattan or whatever, and I don't know. It seems like you could have a very fulfilling existence underneath a rock on a planet.
We could shoot all of Rocky inside of there,
We could.
So yeah, you have this again. This is a thing we think is there. We think there is a underground tube on Mars, and also understand this thing may go on for what? It may not just be a bubble. It may go on for several miles. It might be several miles long. And it's high. It's higher than, probably one of the tallest buildings we've ever built. So, it's got an extreme height to it so that you could fit Dubai, you could fit, Philadelphia, you could put part of Manhattan, you could put part of London, whatever inside of there. And then for light, like, yeah, we could do fiber optic from the surface, filter in a bunch of light from above, just, pump in sunlight and, project a sky on whatever you want there. And it'd be just like Earth, except we could, jump over our houses.
Yes.
You could literally punch somebody through an IHOP.
We're all Superman on the moon.
Yeah. Now, I think a lot about like on the idea on Mars where we have lava tubes that we know go on for miles and miles, maybe hundreds of miles long. The idea of you take your water at one end and you pump it through, you build yourself a river. And so you would be able to live on riverbanks and
it really could be gorgeous. We've talked about this before. One of my favorite parts of Kim Stanley Robinson's Mars trilogy, Red Mars, Green Mars, Blue Mars, was he talks about the social role of the eco-poet. Basically, this is one of the people who lives on Mars whose only job, as it were, is to, trying to grow potatoes. Let's see if we can grow potatoes or let's see if we can make, a hectare of air, beautiful field or something. I think that in a post-scarcity economy, in a world where we have artificially intelligent robots that are able to do pretty much everything humans don't want to do, I suddenly see that when essentially everyone's a billionaire and everybody has the ability to command robot armies, and the only requirement is that your idea to what to do with them be interesting enough that maybe it gets voted or kickstarted or whatever, and you're like, hey man, I want to do this over here, and then everyone's like, that seems good, go.
Maybe. I think that the biggest delineation of wealth in the future is going to be who owns the land. And we have, and you look at the amount of personal wealth that we have today compared to King of France and whatever, it's incredible. But the amount of personal land we have.
But also a counter question. Not that I'm looking for an argument. You turned me on to Timothy Wu's The Attention Merchants.
Mm-hmm.
I almost wonder if does land matter as much as attention? Like being a brand and a person that commands the eyeballs of a bunch of people. That almost seems like it would be more valuable than the actual land itself.
And it all depends. Because I bring up the land thing, but I mean, I talk about but I think of in the Bay Area. But if I wanted to go live in Arizona or somewhere else like that, if I'm like, okay, I don't need to live where everybody else puts this high value on there because they want to be near everybody else, then I can expend my wealth in a different way and live quite comfortably too. And so, yeah, I mean, the answer is it all depends on what your value is. To agreed, 100% agreed. And I love the lovely thing about expanding into space is there's more of all of that.
Sure.
And you can say, hey, you know what? We want to go to this place that's a little more hostile, that isn't going to have the 5-star restaurants, because we want to do the things that you talked about and figure out how to make our own little version of the Shire or whatever. That's what's exciting. And I think that when I think about Mars, people talk about the eventual terraforming, but no, there's other stages way before then, taking these big lava tubes and turning them into these river cities, taking things like, boring machines and tunneling machines and over decades long, connecting everything up with underground, connection things. So you could go around the entire planet that way. Building these amazing sort of, new environments.
What's interesting is as you're describing them, the only complaint I could picture people having is yeah, but then that's just something you made for yourself. That's all fake. That's all just, might as well make a shopping mall. Maybe this is
Europe.
Maybe this is colored by the fact that I just spent a week at Disney, but having seen what beauty is possible with intentionality going into spending money, a ridiculous amount of money to cause things to look picturesque and perfect. I could deal with 2 or 3 beautiful cities on the surface of Mars that are 100% fake, but also 100% awesome.
Yeah, and when you go to Europe, that land has been cultivated by humans for thousands of years. That's not the natural. Even this forest is beautiful. No, that was planned. That was a couple hundred years ago. Planned sort of the way this has been built, because that was farmland that was planted for this. There are very few primeval forests in Europe left. Very few. You have to go out of your way to go find them. These are places where man has not gone through and dramatically changed the structure. Because from modern day to the Romans, you've had massive land use projects taking place all over there. And so we think, this looks, it ain't, so much of what we think is natural just really isn't. But somebody said, hey, you could have parks, it would be nice to visit. No, I think we'll build parks and put houses in those parks. I think that we'll, when you can say, hey, we can put all our infrastructure underground, we can put this all there. We'll make things that look like quaint villages if you want to live in a quaint. We'll make things that look like the Shire if you want to live in the Shire. We'll want that. When you go to really, really fancy communities where people have tons of money to spend on things, they try to, the trend now isn't a big, huge, massive house. You look at Skywalker Ranch. You ever seen photos of that?
I've not.
There's a main house, but then there's all these little separate buildings, and there's landscaping that kind of keeps them sort of away from each other. So it doesn't look like it's a big sprawling facility. It feels more like this. Yeah, we're looking at some. Looks like this, a main house and a bunch of other little buildings here and there. And so it's nestled into this valley. And I think that's sort of a trend we'll see, and you could have walking paths and sort of this idyllic sort of way to get around where, I think it'll feel more natural than the environments we live in.
Yeah.
No. Dude. Gentlemen, are we ready to quest?
I'm feeling it.
Oh, let's get into a little Journey Quest!
Oh, man, if only I remembered what happened last time.
Previously on
Journey Quest!
This is a town that needs some outsiders to protect them.
All right. Justin pulls out a gun and shoots the 9-year-old mayor in the head.
Ah.
This is indeed, sir. I bring you a message.
Ah,
Okay.
from whom?
The Golden Emperor.
Hey, great news! Free Golden Stagecoach!
So we were just getting ready for some kind of invasion.
No. There was no invasion. There was just emissaries from the Golden Emperor, and I not only freed you of your bonds that you'd put yourself in with this 9-year-old,
Yeah,
but
you definitely
then I also got
very
us
courageously
a free dope
murdered.
Stagecoach.
Just very courageously murdered someone the age of my middle daughter. It was,
I mean, wow, what are we gonna do? I need to take the orders of a 9-year-old all the time. Like, whatever, papa, we're done. And then all of a sudden, the stagecoach rolls in, bada bing bang boom. Now all of a sudden, we got a dope stagecoach. We can go to the Golden Emperor, see what he wants. If he gives us a little lip, take care of that one too. Listen, man, I don't know why you keep looking at this like I'm not just solving all your problems.
yeah, it's just ever since I lost my hand, I've really been thinking through. Like, I just want to be a stand-up guy. I'm tired of being an agent of chaos that achieves nothing in life. But I mean, you are
I think
correct.
you're just
Free Stagecoach.
You just lost your nerve, man. I'm here to give it back to you, man. We're gonna. This is how Brian got his groove back. The show. It's not a show. It's our life. But like, just so you know, it's a show to me because there's gonna be a narrative arc. It's gonna end with you being the man you used to be.
We'll see. But regardless, I'm here for you, sir. Shall we take this Golden Stagecoach?
Yeah,
somewhere?
well, we're taking this back to the Golden Emperor.
All right. So you're on board the Golden Stagecoach. It's actually the horses are bringing you back there. And the guy you murdered, whose body I think is still in there, was trying to give you a scroll that asked you to determine your conditions of surrender, and instead you murdered him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna back my boys' play here. I think that you know what? Let's deliver this message personally.
Yeah.
All right. So after a considerable, journey, and you guys have gone through the entire minibar, the horses come to a stop, and you're in a bit of a rise, and you walk up it, and you see an amazing palace. And you're like,
Awesome.
how did they get the time to build this so quickly?
Yeah, but
That is-
what color? I don't know how to feel about this palace. But what color is it?
Okay, well, it is gold, Brian. Well, what you see is this
Gold.
big, broad gates stretching on for miles around, shimmering in the gold color, parapets, buildings and structures and everything. It's a city. It is a city. Like, imagine, that Mesa City from Rogue One, but like painted gold.
That just seems tacky, like something.
Tell you what, it looks like something I'm going to be really excited to own in about 5 minutes.
Okay, well, let's go in. Yeah, listen, Justin, can we just be a little bit measured in our entrance
Who
here?
are you? What is?
I'm somebody who's figured out that I could be a better person than I was.
Okay.
That's who I am.
I'm just saying, I got 2 words. Click, clack. That's what I'm going to give this Golden Emperor.
Okay.
Now,
How
you
did that
notice
work out
the problem
last
is there's one little tiny problem.
Yeah.
There's this
Yeah.
palace. It is on a mesa, and to get there, you have to take a little tram, like a little gondola from a little loading station, all the way over to the mesa.
Quick question: how long is the line for the tram?
There's about 8 or 9 people there, and they're dressed like in real regal, like
Gotcha.
silken gowns,
I'm not. Justin, are you feeling this?
silver
Oh
finery,
my
etc.
God! Yeah, I'm going up to everybody, and I'm putting my gun. I have my gun in my hand, by the way, and I'm just like saluting everybody, saying, "All right, hello, off to kill the Emperor. We're gonna go shoot the Emperor."
Whoa. It's great that you're thinking about doing that, but there's actually, 2 men with large guns standing on either side watching everybody as they load into the gondola. Okay, and there is like this golden tower up there where you see just like the point of a rifle barrel just sticking out of a slot.
All right, Bri, here.
Yeah.
I know we're pretty much cornered. So what I'm going to tell you is you start shooting the one guy. I'm going to start shooting the other guy. Okay.
First
on the
of all,
count of 3, we do it. All right. One.
Quite. A little bit of linguistics. You're only cornered if you refuse to leave. We're
Now,
not cornered.
as you're talking about this, you're hearing some murmur in the crowd too, though. Some murmur in the crowd. Right?
Hey, Brian, listen. Goose is cooked. There's only one way out of this.
He cut off a man's head and used it as a bowling ball. Hilarious.
Okay, you know what? I say hold that thought.
That he has an organ grinder that literally grinds your organs as it pulls you out of the body. He does not like bad news.
All right, I pause. I say,
so creative.
Justin, I back your play no matter what that is. Just for the lulz. Let me do a little bit of investigation and find out what we're up against so that you can best execute your plan of assassination.
All right. Good idea. You go ahead and do that. I'll look for your signal, and as soon as you give me the signal, the murdering begins.
Okay, so I walk over, and I just casually sidle up to hopefully somebody of roughly my...
I actually just yell out to you, was that the signal?
I pause, and I say...
Was the Seidel the signal? Or is the Seidel the signal?
I walk over, and I'm like, let me be very, very clear about this.
Yeah.
There's only one signal, and the signal will be, I will look you in the eye and say, Justin... it's time to start murdering. That will be our secret signal between the two of us, okay?
I heard a family of 5 brought a dispute to them, and he gave them all shotguns and knives and had them fight out.
I hold it, lacking a right hand, I instead hold up my...
for a pay raise.
Lacking a right...
They had the students murder them.
Lacking a right hand, and knowing what Justin's thinking, I hold up my chainsaw as if to say, wait for the signal, and I look at him significantly with an arched eyebrow.
All right. I'll wait for the signal.
Okay.
By the way, I'm standing and I'm doing nothing, but with like looking, with my gaze, fixed on Brian, looking for anything that I could possibly misconstrue as the signal.
So I look at the crowd for the demographically most similar person to me in the entire room, and I walk up to that person.
Is there another person with a chainsaw hand?
Okay. Also 40 and
it's a
male.
guy with white powder makeup, red lipstick, with a fan, and kind of wearing a dress, but a beard.
So I walk up and I just
with little
cross
pieces of silk tied to it.
I cross my arms and say, so what do you think people really think about this Golden Emperor?
Oh, hello, good sir. He's the most imaginative tyrant we've ever had.
Yes, because the tyrant before him, what was his thing again?
Oh, we don't say his name.
But okay, let's real talk. Just person to person, sentient being to sentient being. How tough out of all the tyrants do you really think the Golden Emperor is?
Oh, he's the most imaginative, the most creative, his most artistic emperor we've ever had.
So he's an artsy guy.
Oh, his art for cruelty just knows no boundaries. It's inspiring.
And we citizens love the cruelty, right?
Well, we love the inspiration.
Can you elucidate?
I try not to this early in the morning.
Hey, listen, just between you, me, and the girls here, how would it be accepted if suddenly our emperor was murdered?
Ooh, if it was creatively done. Ooh, but who would dare such a thing?
Okay, all right.
And
BRB.
guards, get him! He's plotting!
Okay, I immediately start up the chainsaw. I jab it into this person, and I look at Justin and I say, "It's time to begin the murders."
I take out both guns and I just start shooting the two guards as much as I humanly can.
And then there's a guy up in the guard tower though who starts firing at you from above.
I give him a very withering look and tilt my good finger. Like you.
Can at this point can we run toward the gondola?
Yeah, sure.
We run to the gondola, firing up at the guard tower to give us cover.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also,
We're in the gondola.
I briefly, as we're running, I lean over to Justin and I was just like, make sure every murder is super effed up, all right? That they love this crap. They love this crap. We found...
responding to that, I unzip my fly and stick my gun through the hole and start shooting random passersby.
I pantomime like I'm a 1920s newsie, and I act like I'm filming it, and I say, "Are you getting this, America? Are you getting this?" Just to make it more messed up.
You get on the gondola.
Yeah.
Doesn't do anything.
Oh, wait, can we hit the go button?
There's a big switch. You can press that.
Nice. We press the switch.
You press the switch, and it starts to creak slowly up towards the mesa.
I lean out the window and say, "Oh, so we used to be party clowns. That's how messed up this is. We used to take care of children where we came from."
Is there anybody else in the gondola, or is it just me and Brian?
I mean, there's a couple dead bodies.
And then I lean out and I say, "Also, we have secret erotic fiction books if you want to publish them."
I pick up one of the corpses and I start making it sing John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt.
And then I lean out and begin to ask, like, whatever happened to the good version of this song? Like, just I'm trying to keep them off balance.
It's a long ride, and there's some music playing. It's sort of this regal pomp and circumstance, and then you get sort of this kind of like 30s sort of music playing. It's got this sort of like, he's the greatest emperor. He kills with abandon. Nobody murders like him. He's our golden emperor.
All right, Justin, can we have a conversation? This seems like a brief moment that maybe we can come up with some kind of battle plan. As best I can
here's
tell.
the battle plan. Point me to the Golden Emperor, and I'm going to shoot as many people as I need to before I shoot that person.
Okay.
And then at that point, wait a minute, I'm not finished. Once he's dead, then I'll kill everybody else that I didn't kill previous until it's just me and you that have the entire run of the city.
Okay, Justin, I understand that we're both a bit emotionally damaged ever since the downfall of civilization, and that maybe we've fallen into some patterns that aren't necessarily great for society at large. However, I do know this much.
Great talk, and I run away, and I just immediately start shooting into the crowd.
You're on a gondola. You're running around in circles in the same
Yeah.
controlled closed cabin as I am.
Yeah.
So will you just, you know what? I don't even ask for your permission to keep going. I just keep going as you do whatever it is you're going to do. I say, Justin, these people value one thing, and that is eccentric cruelty. They love creative murders. So if you just, I mean, forgive me if you're just going to run around shooting people, that seems like that will not impress the populace, and they will not approve of our usurping the Golden Emperor. Seems to me like you got to get a little, can we workshop this? Can we workshop it? Uh-oh. The narrator is silenced.
You're passing through now at this point. You're reaching level ground. You're passing through statues on either side, golden statues, and each one demonstrates a very creative kill. For instance, there's like a woman on her back having little kittens devour her internal organs. Okay,
I raise an eyebrow, and I with my one good hand I do a thumb to point at, like, see what I'm talking about over here.
Then there's a man with pencils shoved into every part of his body.
And then I this time I do nothing. I don't acknowledge that one.
All strange sorts of decapitations, strangulations, all sorts of other stuff. It's really it's quite inspiring.
I say, Justin, come on. This is our big gig. We have to seduce the populace by being more cruel than the Golden Emperor.
All right, cool. So, you want me to do the wiener gun again?
See, okay. Any idea that has the word "again" associated with it? Listen, man, Justin, you don't realize we have come through time and space, and this is the big leagues of cruelty.
Got it.
I need you to be all the way dialed in. This is your moment.
Say no more. I take off my pants and I shoot a hole through the butt so I can have a butt gun.
I nod approvingly, turn away from you, and when I'm convinced you're not looking, roll my eyes as if there's a camera watching me.
The tram comes to a stop. There is a long staircase below you that leads to a alley, not an alley, but a street, a main thoroughfare, if you will, adorned with flags. And above it, about 4 stories above it, is just this wall, this high wall, and it's lined up with people beautifully dressed again, in this very, very sort of Renaissance, fancy. We got a lot of golden thread and a lot of spare time on our hands and whatnot, and they've lined it up. The tram comes to a stop. The door opens, and there's this music, this fanfare.
I look at Justin, and I say, this is just in case. This is a preventative measure. And then I grab his gun, and I, too, shoot a hole out of the butt of my jeans.
Yeah.
And then I hand him back the gun with an arched eyebrow, and I was like, best work. This is the moment.
And you hear some voice go, we've seen that butt gun, seen that before.
Wait, what if we made the Golden Emperor eat our butt guns?
Well,
nobody can hear you because
save
they're
it
way
for the
high
meeting.
up.
Save it for the meeting. This is our moment. We're gonna meet. We're gonna pitch, and we're gonna stitch. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
So you walk down this long road, and then you see this again, the palace. These steps that go up to the palace, right? And then there are more statues lining either side of it, and actually these ones are of what appears to be a sort of this tall, thin man that probably looks like that is the Golden Emperor, doing things like breaking people in half with a smile, a foppish smile, holding up the heart of somebody as they clutch their chest and are like, oh, the pain, the pain, the pain, and there's like little plaques that say, to inventing new creativities, new art, new forms. You realize he's a very inspired artist. And you hear these murmurs like, he's created, he's in a new phase now. I can't wait to see the new phase. I can't wait to see what the new phase is going to be. I heard he's just pushed it to a new envelope.
I walk. Look, I walk forward as if I don't have this impending sense of dread.
Okay. You reach the top of the steps. There's a large golden door there. Creaks open. Blinding light comes at you. Your voice is, now step forward to meet the Golden Emperor. You step into this room, and there is this really tall, like a 3-story tall staircase. This gold throne ends in like spear points, things like this. There's knives. You look all around you. There's all these golden weapons, like just amazing stuff. And you look to your right, and it's kind of like sick and twisted sex stuff because you're like, I think that's we're going in somebody's body, and that's really gross. Right?
So, real quick, I turn to Justin, and I'm just like, this is what you want. You just go in and meet him, or we're
gonna make him eat the butt gun.
Okay, all right. I follow Justin.
And it's a simple plan. Step 1, make a butt gun. Step 2, make the Golden Emperor eat the butt gun. Step 3, we own the Golden Empire.
So you may proceed to greet the Emperor.
So walking up the stairs.
Hey, Emp, you hungry? Because the menu is fairly limited.
As we're walking up the stairs, under my breath, I mutter, like, you heard them mention that they've seen the butt gun before. I mean, it's like they're not going to be impressed.
Yeah, but what about 2 butt guns?
I mean, it just seems derivative and like you're just iterating at this point. I don't.
Do you have? All right. Hey, listen. I don't see anybody else pitching here. I came up with butt gun. And sure, maybe that's a little basic, but I feel like it is a forceful statement and all I hear is like, I don't know. See, this is what happens when you let a 9-year-old push you around. You just like, you used to be the best at this. You used to be jumping around and flying out of all these confinements and murdering people without thinking about it. And now you're just like, I don't know.
I'm here to back your play. This is a team endeavor, and I'm ready. Let's go.
Wait a minute.
So-
No. Wait. What do you? Give me a pitch then, real quick, on top of your mind. What's your pitch?
Okay,
If you're-
fine. I don't have anything better. I'm just hoping that poking you will somehow bring me gratification and get us a better idea than we have right now. All I know is that they've already seen the butt gun trick, and if we have to have a closer. We have to have something that makes everybody going to stand up and scream for us. Like
You're halfway up the stairs.
Wait, what?
You're halfway up the stairs.
I say, what if we make them think it's gonna be the butt guns, but instead we shoot each other? I'm just spitballing. No bad ideas in brainstorming.
And you get the sense that you're being watched from above. Like there might be a gallery, like there's some lattices, whatever. That perhaps if there's people watching you.
Yeah. Oh, hey, what about this? We do the butt gun bullet catch, but we actually shoot him in the face.
Okay, look, I freeze as if I have an idea, and then I look Justin in the eye, I give him a wink, I crank up the chainsaw, and I hold it to his throat, and I say, listen up, nobody move, I want to see the Emperor right now, and I march Justin up the stairs.
You hear, this is going somewhere.
I say, I swear to God, I'll let him have it. You let me see the Emperor right now. And then
So you reach the top, and there is a throne, and there's a very tall, thin man. Looks just like the statue sitting there, and he looks kind of bored. He's like, go on.
And I was, I whisper to Justin, like, I need some help here. This is all I really had, but they seem to like it. Come on, let's work with
Boring.
this.
I look at Brian and I say, all right, I'm going to shoot you in the wiener. All right?
The man on the throne's like listening.
All right, on the count of 3, all right? Are you ready?
Hold on, wait, no. I say, Justin, that would be an actual betrayal of our very real friendship. At this moment, through all we've been through,
He's on the edge of his seat listening. Going,
you would actually betray me in this way? That would achieve nothing. What would you gain from that?
You know what, Brian? I think you're right. That would be a betrayal if I stuck my butt gun into your wiener and pulled the trigger. Which is what I'm going to do right now. Pa! And I shoot Brian in the wiener. And I say, oh, you like that? Do you? Well, guess what? Call me Uber Eats for butt guns because I'm just about to make a delivery. And I run up to the Golden Emperor and I make him eat the butt gun. And then I shoot him.
I look down, not angry, just disappointed at my
We win,
exploded
Brian,
wiener.
We win. I run over to Brian. I want to jump up and down.
Confetti showers down from above, and you hear, "Brilliant! Brilliant!"
Oh no! And
I'm so excited. I'm hugging Brian. This is like I've just won an Oscar, and I'm crying, and I'm hugging him, and I'm saying, "We did it, man!
Then
We
the
did it!"
walls all lower down around you, and you realize you're in a stadium.
I take this moment of quiet.
You're in a stadium being watched now.
I take
You're
this
very calm and collected for a man
Take
whose
a
wiener
bow.
just got
Curtain
shot.
call.
I quietly in my head try to access the Adolf operating system and say, "Hey Adolf, do you know is this a world that maybe they have cybernetic and they could rebuild?"
Brian, our schnitzel has been shot. We must do something.
I know. I'm just wondering, like this world. Like I would really love a bionic schnitzel or something. Is there anything?
I take whatever scepter that the Golden Emperor has as he now lays prone, victim to my butt gun, and I wrap it 3 times and say, as your new Golden Emperor, I demand that my associate gets a new schnitzel.
And you hear this loud laughter. Everybody puts their hands in front of their mouth and does this foppish laugh. Oh, he still thinks that's the Golden Emperor.
I look around for a camera so I could give a Jim Halpert, oh well, look. Whoops.
Well, you notice there's this large skybox in front of you, a golden skybox, and in there you see a throne with a man sitting on the throne going, he still thinks that was me.
Well, hey, you want to know what? Turns out it's not Taco Tuesday, it's Butt Gun Wednesday because it's still on the menu, Jack. All right, Brian, let's go.
You know what? I'm good. I'm just gonna hang out here on the stage.
Brian's gonna bleed to death.
This
a couple
is your
paramedics
dream.
come running out. The Emperor has sent us with his compliments.
I have a quick conversation with the paramedics. I was like, you guys don't have a hand in there, do you? Or a spare schnitzel?
Well, if the Emperor is pleased, he can do quite a lot.
All right. Well, I get. Hey, you know what? Just go on without me, Justin. These guys have medical gear.
As you're doing this, another man comes running out with a sketch pad. He's like, "Wait, don't move him!" And he quickly sketches you, Brian, on the ground, holding your crotch, and bleeding out, and Justin here with his butt gun. Like, oh, we gotta get the sculpture.
Oh yeah, hey, we're making history.
I'm gonna have
Justin.
to call you guys up for a follow-up, okay?
I say, look, just patch me up and give me a Depends undergarment, and I'll follow this guy. I'm done.
You splitting up?
No. I'm gonna follow Justin because that's what I've sworn to do, and I do like. I'm not obnoxious about it. But there's always a half-second delay to everything I say to Justin that sort of implies I'm doing this because we're, sworn buddies, but also I don't necessarily approve of him shooting me in the dick. Sorry.
What is your line? What is your line that he has to cross?
At some point, Andrew, you just look up and you realize you're missing a hand. You have a chainsaw for an arm. You have a Nazi robotic artificial intelligence operating system installed in your brain, and your best friend just shut off your wiener. At some point, you just roll with it, man. That's
all
just
right. So you're being escorted down the ramp into a sideways tunnel. Sorry, tunnel on the side. Right.
By the way, in this moment of now that we're away from everybody, I lean over to Brian and I'm like, dude, that was brilliant. I followed your lead. You took me hostage, and then I followed your plan of shooting you in the dick, and everybody was like wild for it, man. I think that this gets us so much closer to killing the Golden Emperor because of your brilliant plan, man. You are brilliant.
with it.
You're back,
the doors
baby.
close.
You're back.
As the doors close behind you, you hear the Emperor giggling and going, he still doesn't know. Shut.
With an exhausted sigh, I was like, I'm glad you liked it, Justin.
Next time.
I'll tell you, this is the Brian I remember.
He still doesn't get it.
So we keep walking. We're walking down the tunnel, right?
You're still hearing the echo,
All right.
The fool doesn't know. Next time on Journey Quest.
You know what?
Tell you what, he's gonna get it. He's gonna get my butt gun in his mouth.
I tell you what, man, Justin. I think our goals are aligned. Like, as annoyed as I disapprove of you shooting off my genitals, but I do approve of your wanting to murder this guy, because that's not cool.
I approve of your plan. That was wholly devised by you, and I was only a player in. I think this is great. This is the best Journey Quest.
Gentlemen, do you have any picks?
Yeah, you want to know what? I'm gonna pick another Twitch channel here. There's a wrestling promotion around the corner from where I am in Oakland called Hood Slam, and they did an awesome show last night that I believe is available on their VODs, twitch.tv/hoodslam. It was put on in conjunction with, I forget the organization, but it's a science organization out here in the Bay, and they did Science Slam.
Like California Science
that
Academy?
was Martin Scarelli is who you are seeing out there, who briefly raised, there's me, there on the side of the ring, who briefly raised the prices at the bar 5,000% because he could, then had to face retribution for it. But it also involved Neil deGrasse Tyson versus Bill Nye. Spoiler alert, Pluto ran in and made their impression known. This was a handicap match of Watson and Crick.
Oh,
Against,
this is amazing.
But it ended with a Faraday cage match of Tesla versus Edison, and it was great. It was awesome. I had such a great time.
Who won? Who won?
No spoilers.
Michael Faraday.
Yeah,
The seller of the cage.
You want to know what? Go and watch it. But I believe that that Tesla came out on top in the Faraday cage match.
I got a pick for you. It's you know what? I'm gonna do the safe pick. Stranger Things 2 is great. If you like Stranger Things, then here's more of it. It's called Stranger Things 2.
It's good. How far in are you in the series?
Episode 5, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's it's a little bit of a different thing this season.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I liked Brian's review.
We're not spoiling it. Not spoiling anything. Andrew didn't have to do the thing. It's good.
All right.
Stranger Things.
That's it.
Gentlemen, like my shirt. Like my shirt.
Is that a
nice.
SpaceX shirt?
Yeah, it's it's a Dragon capsule with its solar powered trunk thing there. It's a SpaceX shirt. They just landed in the middle of our podcast. I don't know if you know this, but SpaceX actually they like land rockets too, and like it's like no big deal because like they just landed another one.
That's my favorite thing on the planet. The fact that it's now de rigueur. I just love the fact that it's like whatevs, same difference.
So I wear a lot of SpaceX gear. People are like, why do you wear SpaceX gear? I'm like, why do people wear football jerseys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like you know, and like it's the same thing. It's like I think it's really cool what they're doing. They have a gift shop. They have a store where you can buy things. So I buy things to wear them because I like it. It's cool. So if you go to SpaceX, you can SpaceX.com. They actually have they shop there, and you can get T-shirts and other cool stuff there. So, you know, had somebody said, "Oh, well, I'm going to give you a NASA shirt to wear." I'm like, I wear NASA shirts too. I have a project solar sail project for the Planetary Society. Like I love all this stuff. So. Just SpaceX has really cool gear. So this is one of the shirts they have. They've got a lot of cool stuff. They also, if you're a collector, for every mission, they have a patch. And if you go to the SpaceX Reddit, reddit.com/r/SpaceX, you'll see whatever the latest mission is, and you'll see the mission patch for this. I think this was Kriosat or whatever they think they just launched. And so that's kind of a cool thing because some people like to collect all of those. But there's, you know, they have neat stuff. They've got like cool, you know, T-shirts and other sorts of wear. So anyhow, that's my pick is the SpaceX shop. And also
nice.
like if you want to, like I have a Boring Company hat on its way too.
Awesome,
you
man.
can have the hats. So
That's awesome.
Blue Origin made gear. I'd wear Blue Origin stuff. Like I'm just, the more we like these things, put them out there. Like, you know, Brian right now is wearing a shuttle shirt, you know, and that's cool. You know, I think just showing our support for these kinds of things, the more people go, oh, what's this? Like SpaceX, what's this? Like, oh, that's really cool. You know, so.
Have you, when's the last time you've encountered somebody who was unfamiliar with the fact that SpaceX is landing first stages of rockets?
I mean, a lot. I mean, on Twitter and stuff, too, I'll say something about SpaceX and I'll get some ignorant kind of like, well, I'll believe them when they launch something. You're like, what are you, like, you're...
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. You get these very, you know, people who have very strong, their opinion to knowledge ratio is, you know, way out of whack. And you're like, oh, didn't they blow some people up? Like, no, not yet. You know,
time.
it's just, And these are the people, the first ones to react and get angry online too. That's the funny thing. But yeah, I still encounter that. A lot of times I'll talk, oh, I've heard of SpaceX. Like, no, like, oh, let me tell you what they do. I'm like, oh my God, that's really cool. I'm like, yeah, we're in the future.
Yeah.
So anyhow, who's wearing? I'd wear a Virgin Galactic shirt. Sure, I'd support all of that. I think it's all good. So more cool stuff. So that's my pick. And that's the end of Weird Things. It's been weird.
BRB.
Cool. All right, we're going to take a few minutes. Break.
Dramatic twists in Journey Quest
Coming up
lands.
after things.
Not gonna say I'm overly thrilled with.
He reacted very calmly for a man who was supposedly bleeding out and had just been shot.
Look, man, I've turned over a new leaf. I'm here to support the team.
Sure.
And if this is where we're at, then this is where we're
I'm
at.
more just saying it's out of character. You got to play your character.
My character, I'm
not even like unsupported. Just like, hey, if I had an appendage of mine shot off, I'd probably be panicking. A little more shouty.
Well, you know what? The real Brian has more wieners, but less chill than the virtual Brian. The virtual Brian,
more wieners.
Very stoic. I mean, he was pretty stoic when his hand got just gone. He was like, well, I guess we're rolling with this.
Sure.
When he had Hitler downloaded into his brain operating system. Look, man, in many ways, you could make a strong case that, the real Brian, that is a father of three, is inferior to his cultural counterpart online.
Yeah. Did you played Last of Us, right?
I did.
So they put out a new cinematic trailer for Last of Us Part 2.
Oh, can we just illegally stream it right now?
It's actually not very interesting. All right.
Oh, really?
All right. It's like really violent, and it's a bunch of characters we don't know.
Like so there's very little.
It's more of a teasery thing,
Yeah.
than anything
very
about.
little familiar context to enjoy
Yeah.
it through. Okay.
One of the things that they did announce at Games Week today was what is it called? It's a samurai game from Sucker Punch, the people who made Infamous,
Yeah.
and that will be really interesting because I think they make Sucker Punch makes really interesting open world games like Infamous, but it's set up in like historic Japan. So you play a samurai.
Like in feudal Japan.
Feudal Japan, yeah.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Man, did you ever watch Samurai Champloo?
Yeah, a little bit. That's a good show.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah. All right. Hi, Andrew. Hi, Justin.
To be fair with the Journey Quest thing, Brian had his hand ripped off because he reached up to try to grab a moving object and had his hand ripped off. He had Hitler implanted into his brain because he volunteered for an experimental situation. And then he got his wiener shot off because he was clearly executing the plan of the old chainsaw wiener shoot.
Sure. That classic. That was in Seven Samurai. So, like, everyone knows it.
Everyone knows that one.
Everyone knows
that old gambit.
All right, so we're going to do After Things. After Things. Great. Stretch. Everybody, take a moment to stand up, stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Do your cardio. What were some of the probably the thing that got me the most excited at the Paris Games Week conference earlier today was they revealed that a sequel is being made to Spelunky. Which is a fantastic roguelike game that came out years ago, and it's great. I'm so glad that they're making another, presumably bigger one of those. have you ever played Spelunky, Justin?
I have. Yeah. It was one of like the first games that I played. I think I first played it with Curly, like way back in the day when I was like in San Diego for a Go Game thing. But
Oh yeah.
it's it's crazy fun.
The trailer the trailer was like the last video of their like pre-show segments, and so like they were still announcing stuff before the conference even started, and it was like the very last thing that they showed, and it's this like it starts off with like all these really cute like Polaroids of like, oh, it's the guy from Spelunky, and oh, it's him with the girl that he saved and the dog, and they had a baby, and there's just there's one photo where it's like, it's the explorer from the first game, and he's older and he's got a beard and he's giving his hat to his daughter, and then he fades out of the picture. It's really sad, but it's very good. I don't know. It's
Wait, so this is the daughter is going to be the sequel?
it looks like it. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm really stoked. Other stuff. Another trailer for Detroit Becoming Human. The game where you play an android who, or I guess you play different androids and they're breaking out of their programming.
Okay.
It's another David Cage joint, so it will probably be very poorly written and a little too long. But
This is a video game?
yeah, the Detroit Becoming Human game. I don't generally like David Cage games, but I have bought all of them, so I guess I don't have much room to speak. Or no, maybe I have the most room to speak. Hey, you decide. Oh, and Brian's back. All right. I did not get any questions. By the way, if you have questions for After Things, feel free to send them in to neshcom@gmail.com. Put After Things in the subject line. We haven't had one in a hot minute, but we'd love to answer your questions or listen to your projects and give you feedback. I have a lot of emails I need to sort. Yeah. Alrighty, you guys gonna do After Things?
Yeah.
Sure enough.
So, do we have any core subject?
I'm sure we'll have one.
Ooh.
Ahoy.
All right. Well, are we all?
Yeah,
Well,
I'm,
good.
I'm ready. I don't know about you guys, but I sure am feeling it.
Andrew?
Ready.
Okay. Juice?
Let's go.
All right. Take it away in 3, 2.
Welcome to After Things. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood,
Hello.
Justin Robert Young.
Yo, what's up?
All right, gentlemen, I've got a topic for you.
Uh-oh.
Surprise going to spring upon you right now.
Go ahead.
So, you work a while and you try to achieve something. Like, let's say you work and you decide, hey, I want to be a magician. The next thing you know, you're working doing shows, you're traveling around the world. Maybe you're working on cruise ships, resorts, whatever. Or maybe you're doing college shows. Or maybe you're a podcaster and you're podcasting, several times a week. Or all the above, whatever. And you have a good thing going. You're like, you know what? This is a good thing. I make a good income. I'm supporting myself. I can get by just fine and maybe put a little away. And this is where it becomes a choose your own adventure. Do you say, yay me, let me just double down on this and just plan for the future and do this? Or do you say, yes, but I want more. I want to do more. I'm not satisfied. I need to try something even more difficult, even more challenging, and try to go to the next level.
I have thoughts on this, but I'd actually be really curious to hear Justin's take first.
I think there's ultimately kind of to me that drive, the drive to do more, is kind of rooted in another more base question of whether or not you are kind of working to live or living to work. And if you have imbued in yourself the desire to make your work something that you enjoy and find creatively fulfilling, or fulfilling on enough of a base level that it really drives you, then I don't think that there's much of a choice than to keep going forward, more, bigger, better. You know, that's every success in life reveals kind of like 8 more challenges. And to me, that's the fun part, is figuring out what those challenges are and how to do better at them.
So
Right.
I don't know. This is really challenging to me because the times I've flirted the hardest with deep depressions have been times where they're in the denouement after a big achievement, a multi-year challenge, and realizing it and winning, you know, or feeling like you won. You know, you define your own level of success. But that wave of like, well, I guess now I just hold on to this real tight and hope nobody takes it away. That is agonizing. Like that is astonishingly challenging and breaks my brain. So as a result, it's been easier for me to say, okay, well, what I need to do is consciously make the decision to train my brain to decide whatever I've got is nothing, and that the real prize is, you know, to find something else new. When you have that, on the one hand, it's disrespectful to the work that you've already done because you don't appreciate, like, it's pretty great. Hey, Brian, it's pretty great that you made an internet show called Scam School. But happiness, internal happiness, didn't occur until I decided, like, well, in my story, that needs to be a stepping stone to something else. And then you begin the journey again. I guess what I'm trying to say is my favorite part of all video games is the beginning. And if you find yourself in a place of stewardship at the end, it's very easy to get depressed and bummed out about. And for your own mental health, I think it's better to decide, okay, everything that happened was leading up to this moment, and now you're beginning the real video game. And it's this constant resetting that I do in my brain.
I've looked at moments in my life where I was my unhappiest, and they've either when nothing seemed to be working or when everything was working at the level that I wanted things to work at a couple years before. You know, I remember when I spent, like, you know, after I got my first house, I remember, like, I spent a year later, I realized I'd been there for a year and I'd been making bills, paying, you know, getting things done, whatever, had a comfortable life, free time, whatever. And I was miserable and I was terrified that the next 10 years would pass like that 1 year. I had this sort of year that I don't remember anything happening other than I just did the same sort of thing. You know, put out a couple new magic tricks, did whatever, and that was it. And that's when I made this decision that I needed to embrace risk. I needed to be much more risky in what I was trying to do with my time because I wanted to have bigger challenges. I needed bigger challenges. The challenges are more important to me than the rewards. That was the realization. The challenge I was trying to accomplish was more important than the reward. And that's when I decided to step it up. And now I kind of do this thing like every 5 years or so. I say, okay, now what are we going to go for now? Now what was crazy 5 years ago isn't crazy anymore. So what do I want to go for that would sound crazy right now?
Yeah, it sounds like you're echoing some of the same sentiments. The idea that you know, let's always be at the beginning of an adventure, like whatever happened before. I got to tell you, like, let's say somebody handed you. Here's what I don't think a lot of people realize is the very same things that you want, if handed them and told, congratulations, you've got it, how quickly that starts to feel like a prison. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, it's kind of, you know, there's the old saying, you know, of find me the hottest person that you think is the most attractive, and I'll show you somebody who's tired of having sex with them. And that's, the nature of I think humanity. I mean, like we are pattern recognizing creatures, right? And so we will get bored if we do not continue to find new nuances in the pattern or find new patterns.
But I mean, I have friends that are like perfectly happy doing kind of a regular sort of job, saving their money, and then going to Star Wars Celebration and spending $5,000 on gear. That's their thing. That's their ambition is like, I'm going to go to this con, I'm going to do this. Their personal ambition is more of focused. Their ambitions are more focused towards their engaging whatever part of the brain we'd say that affects. And so I think that people who are I think that we're very unique, and I think our listeners are probably, a lot of them are pretty unique in that we are people who want more out of the rest of it. You know, we're trying to do bigger and better things.
That's a really interesting door to open is, I would say the healthy thing for most people to do is to recognize they have a job where they trade their time for money, and then when their job is over, they get to enjoy things they love. And yet, I don't think I'm talking out of turn when I say that the three of us are people who are like, no, I reject your paradigm. I should get to do whatever I want and love and make my life my job. And, you know, let me, there's a lot of trade-offs. On the one hand, it's, you know, we find ourselves, overexposing and emotionally, you know, like if you're trading your time for money, it's probably, I would assume it's easier to have to handle a boss saying, hey, you sent in this thing, the proposal didn't go through, and you're like, whatever, you know, whereas like for the three of us, that's emotionally crushing, and it's an indictment on us as individuals or whatever, because I don't know. It seems like there's something to the trade-off of, on the one hand, we get to, quote unquote, not work all day because all we do is we make our lives work. But on the flip side is we're so very, very exposed, and we're just wilting flowers under the harsh sunlight of other people's judgment.
Yeah, I think about, like, nobody knows what you're capable of. Nobody knows what you're capable of, and that includes ourselves. And the one thing that you can know is how far you will go to try to achieve something. And I think that's the big difference there. And I think that that's finding that certain amount of challenge. I remember like when I was visiting the Disney Zoo, Animal Kingdom, and talking to one of the people there who works with the gorillas, and how what they do is they hide their food every day in different locations. Because if the gorillas get the food in the same location every day, they get bored and depression, and that needing that challenge. And I think that, and there can be different challenges, and there being bigger challenges, but I don't know. I just think, at what point do you say, okay, all right, I'm here, now I'm ready to go? And I guess it really is going to be, you do it before you're ready. You do it before you're ready, before it makes sense to do that, because that's where it makes a challenge. But everybody else will tell you, like, oh, wait, no, don't do this, whatever. And I think part of the problem too, when you look at other people's success, is that we all, you know, I got to talk to Apollo Robbins this weekend, and you know, Apollo did this wonderful demonstration about confirmation bias. And confirmation bias is such a problem for all of us, because, and particularly with successful people, is that you think the things that you did are the reason you were successful. And yes, those were parts of the success, but often the major reason you were successful was luck, was really luck. That's not always the case. I think there are lots of examples of people who were so determined and focused something was going to work for them. But there are a lot of people a lot of entrepreneurs who, right place, right time, or they were the second partner brought on because they needed a software engineer and they were there, and this company became a huge hit. And now they're like, oh, this person's brilliant. Like, well, they actually were right place, right time next to somebody who maybe was brilliant in that moment. And now we sort of exaggerate their success because of the scale of the reward. But then there are other people who just repeatedly engineer their thinking for success. And I think a lot of people don't appreciate that or understand that, you know.
Yeah. Well, so what does it mean? Like, I assume a lot of the folks listening right now are people who, I guess, I'm wrapping my mind around this as I'm pitching it to you. But the type of people who listen to After Things, I think are people who are creatives or want to be creatives or whatever. I don't think we've talked about on this program how to handle success. Like, would that be what we're zeroing in on here?
Sure, we could talk about that, or achievement in some level, like getting to that. Like,
Yeah.
I remember when I was 22, and I was now a working magician, and I hated it though. I got the thing, and I didn't want the thing, and I didn't know what to do next.
Well, and I guess I can relate to that. I didn't hate the thing. I hated having nothing else on my plate. Like, so now I guess I'm just supposed to hold this as close to my chest as possible and just fear somebody trying to take it away every day. And I know people who are older and retired, and that's part of why culturally they get into these dynamics of like, they're trying to take our jobs, they're trying to take my money, they're trying to take away blank. Is like, that is what I fear, is getting into that mindset. So the moment I have anything, I just, in my mind, I just want to reset and just say, whatever it is that's happened to get me to this point, that was the necessary but not sufficient step that is now beginning the real adventure from age, 42 to 47 that I'm on now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it also breeds for people that are achievement oriented. What you described, Brian, is like, okay, well, if I'm a touring magician, now the main focus, again, in pattern recognition, is about loss and not gain. It's about, oh, wait, did that college call me back? I wonder who they booked. Now I'm going to look up this other guy's website and run him down in my head about how, he's not all that good, and maybe those people are stupid, yada, yada, yada. It just like breeds this element of loss prevention, instead of, well, wait, okay, well, once I kind of max out on doing colleges, then the focus should be on the Halloween Horror Nights of the world, or it should be on this, or it should let's look at TV, let's look at all this other stuff, let's so many thoughts, whether or not they become the actual pathway that you're going on, in my opinion, start off as like side things to the other thing that you're doing. It just matters that you're doing something, I'm sure for a moment, Brian, your drive to be on television was rooted in, man, I could book a lot more college gigs, right?
Yeah, no, and in fact, it took all the way to having a television show to make me realize that, oh, wait, that's not how it works, and that's not even what I wanted. But I am glad that I've introduced myself to a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to have a bigger thing you work for, and then other things appear along the way. Sometimes you find out that, it just being out there, like I've noticed, the more I'm out promoting or talking or doing things, the more opportunities come my way that maybe are unrelated to what I'm trying to do. And if I wasn't so focused on what I was trying to do, I'd be like, oh, cool. When I decided, hey, I wanted to pick up coding and learning how to do this, I started getting offers for jobs to work at startups. That would have been weird for somebody to have offered me that 6 months prior. But after I started making things and doing things, I had people who were like, oh, we'd love for you to work with us. When I'm like, I've only been doing this a short amount of time. Like, but that didn't matter to them. Because
that's actually a really good point. The idea that there are these parallel realities that exist outside of the path we've all chosen, like in an alternate universe, because I don't doubt for 1 second, Andrew, that you would not be an MVP coder at a startup, and yet at the same time that
I was
feels
20 years younger.
I mean, even now or whatever. But I mean, like, there's some version, there's some parallel universe where you do that and it works great or whatever, and yet it just at the same time feels like such an ill-fitting suit to the way I know you, and you're savvy when it comes to being present and connecting with other people and telling artistic tales and all that stuff, because all of those don't matter in the role of coder, but they do matter in the role of novelist, storyteller, cruise ship illusionist, and so on.
I can think of a couple examples. Like, I mean, one personal, which is like, I did a pilot for the Cartoon Network, right? And then that didn't look like it was, it was going to go anywhere. And that's shortly afterwards when I started writing books. had I did, a 6 episode or 12 episode season for them, I could see that, and had that my show back then, I wouldn't have had the time for books. I wouldn't have got into that. And then I may have decided, you know what, I like this kid's television thing. Let me go try to pursue this, or let me get out of TV entirely because, the money would have been horrible, and maybe I would have gone to tech or something like that. But there is a very easy path where I'm still like, I'm going to write my novels later on in life and not now. And I'll be able to talk a bit more about stuff maybe in a couple weeks, but I'm glad I chose this path, folks. real glad.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
You chose wisely.
But I could see, Brian, like a world where you had you're working at Dell and you're like, you know what? Like you go talk to a friend, an entertainer friend. They say, here's what sucks about the road or college. This is not really where you want to go, whatever kind of thing. And then you end up still at some point live streaming or podcasting or something. And you're a guy that didn't go do one route into it. You did another route where maybe not even with the magic as a focus for it,
Yeah. Man, that's a wild thing to wrap my mind around now that I think about it. Yeah. Sorry, I thought I had something queued up. I don't.
There's a world where Justin's in New York and I don't say, hey, come down and work with me. And he gets a call from somebody who's like, hey, listen, we're doing a comedy showcase. We need you to come do a bit. And Lorne Michaels is there.
I just recalled the half-queued thought. A friend of mine works in the T-shirt printing business, and he does a lot of T-shirts for bands and for comedians and, for their tours and is familiar with the college market. And he said something last week or the week before that really rung true to me. He said that everybody has a tendency to look at what they've got right now and assume that's all that exists. And for example, he mentioned one prop comedian who has a really good gig where he goes to Australia every year, and he spends exactly 6 months and 1 day in Australia, because if you spend 6 months and 1 day, then it alters how much you owe in taxes, and it ends up being a really good benefit to do it that way. So in his world, Australia is the only market that ever exists, and that's all that there can be or whatever. And to me, he said, it's like you look at the internet and all you think is that the internet is all that exists. But meanwhile, you've forgotten the fact that you made this entire career touring colleges. Why don't you involve the two in there? So I do think that there is kind of this nearsightedness that happens in your world, no matter what your world is. Mm-hmm. You just assume that this is all of the market that there is to exist. And just like right now, it never occurs to me that I will teach a philosophy course at a major state institution. Likewise, there's something equally ridiculous that somebody might be very, very good at that they might have one of those blind spots and not even be considering.
Prisons are state institutions. The same.
Yeah, you know what? I think. And actually, hold on. As an exercise, like that is an offhanded, crazy, wild hair of a thought. But let's wrap our minds around that. Like, what would it take? I guess if I wanted to teach philosophy at a state institution and I didn't mind that institution being a prison, I would form a nonprofit and start reaching out. And talking about my previous credentials, and I don't know, like suddenly I'm trying to figure out like how could I make that happen.
I'm sure there are a number of groups and stuff you could get in contact with that are looking for doing adult education or whatever, and they're in different kinds of prisons too, and that there's the project that there's a great project that's run out of New York, which is magicians going in and visiting, working with high-risk teens and stuff, kids in juvenile hall, etc., and teaching the magic.
And I guess the answer is just be the guy that creates the framework to make that happen. Because no, we can't all be magicians that are teaching at-risk youth tricks, but we can all be the people who think that's a good idea and endeavor to make that happen.
And also, it's like, I think to go to your point earlier about you only know what is in front of you, you like what keeps us in our boxes, what keeps us in our lanes, and this is the tricky thing, right? Is that you don't want to diversify too much or run after every little thing, because then all of a sudden you're not putting the time and effort and energy into the thing that you really want to, right? You can oftentimes become less productive because you are more productive looking for the lane than you are spending time making headway in it. However, that idea of saying like, well, no, I can do that. Let me do that. Let me get out of my comfort zone and let me just try that, right? It's so amazing how that spark happens, how you follow through on it, and how oftentimes you figure out, wow, it was really just me in my head giving me very good reasons, capital V, very good reasons why this couldn't happen. And then you try it and you're like, oh, wow, turns out I know how to do all this. For example, one of the big things that I wanted to do this year, and I'm going to do, in a couple weeks, is do a live show for the podcast, right? And previously I'd kind of done sort of halfway stuff, like do house shows, like I'd seen certain music acts do and everything. But this is like, I'm going to be in Philadelphia for the PAX Unplugged thing, talking, giving a talk for the tabletop people. And then the next day at night, I'm going to go do a live show. And it's like, there's nothing in that process that I've now done that was outside of my capacity to do. Not finding a venue was emailing a few friends that I knew in Philadelphia. Booking the venue was being on email and asking and talking to them real quick, and then figuring out a number that was good for everybody, and that's that. Now, plugging it is going to be plugging it, and then we'll see how many people show up. But it's like, this is there previously could be a million good reasons why, maybe the crowd will be small, or maybe this will be, bad, or maybe it's like, but if I want to be on a next level for what I do, I've got to behave next level. And next level is doing shows where people can find you and you can continue to build a big, vibrant show, and that's like, it's amazing how thin that membrane is once you walk through it.
Do you know what this reminds me of? And I don't think we've talked about this on the show, but oftentimes people will ask me how a particular magician did a trick. And my answer is always the same. I say, let's pretend that you knew for a fact that in 3 hours a camera crew was going to show up and you had to replicate this effect. How would you do it? And then they oftentimes will give detailed, bizarre reaction using a kludge of half thought up stuff. And then they'll say, well, that's how I do it, but that can't be how they did it, because that would just be dumb. And it's like, guess what? That's exactly how they did it. However you would do it right now, using not made up imaginary things that you would imagine a magician has access to, but actual stuff that you can get your hands on in the next 20 to 40 minutes. That is very likely how they did it.
I just want to say, like, I think a big part too is you have to move from being a person that wants things to happen to a person that makes things happen. And that's because, Justin, you mentioned, like, well, I called the venue, I called this. These are things that a lot of people would go, I want to do a show. And if I met somebody who could make that happen for me, to be great. And I've had people, like, it annoys me because I've encountered people in my life that are like, oh, you write great. I've been wanting to meet you because you can help me write this book, or you can do this thing for me. And it's like, that's the hard part, is the making it happen thing, and you got, if you want this, then go do it. And I've had projects where now what I kind of do, if I had some things with people, maybe I'm like, oh, I might be interested to work with this person. I'll be like, okay, hey, I got this part done. Can you go do this part? And they'll be like, oh yeah, no, I'll get, and I'm like, well, and they're like, how's this other part coming? I'm like, I'll let you know when you finish the thing you need to do. And you find out how many people just aren't doers. They're not makers. They're not doers. They have the capability to do it, but they'll want to do it if somebody else will come along and do all the hard parts for them.
Yeah, I think you're calling me out on something that I've thought about for a while. I've had you and I have talked about this. Like, I had a couple of science fiction short story ideas that I thought were clever, and it's just so tempting to believe that there exists a silver bullet, some other magical partner that you can encounter that will do the hard parts that you don't want to do. But it's not true. It's like, it's up to you to just do it. And I think I was talking to Bonnie the other day, and I gave myself a challenge. I said I should write something, literally anything, doesn't matter, whatever kind of short story it is, and then send it out to everybody on my email list, which is getting pretty sizable now. I think the Scam Stuff email, the total fan list, and everything is up to 115,000 people now. So, like, there's really no excuse for me to act like I can't act like, oh, I wish I could write something and then be a writer like Andrew and have lots of people read it, because that is a factual reality right now at this moment. The only thing stopping it from being true is that I haven't bothered to write anything, and I haven't bothered to literally press a button saying send this to all the people.
You are so positioned to, if you enjoy and that's the hard part, is if you enjoy the writing part, I think you will once you get into that part. If you enjoy that part of it, you are in such a great position. There is 2 years from now, there's an alternate universe, or maybe it's this universe, where there's a big, thick science fiction paperback release with Brian Brushwood's name on it, because Brian Brushwood's the new. And I'm not going to name names, but we have friends that are writers in sci-fi and genre stuff. Brian, you're smarter than them. Okay. And I've known a number of people that have had hit books. They've had that one hit book, and the follow-ups have sucked because they had one idea, and people are like, oh, I love so and so. What else do you like by them? I don't think you have a problem. I'm excited about this because I think that, and you said, hey, I have that list. You could send that out there. You will have people enthusiastic about that. You have the capability. I used, back when our audience was much smaller, I used our audience to get into sci-fi with Grendel Shadow, and I used that to get in with Public Enemy Zero. The platform is much bigger, and especially huge, be even much bigger for you. That, holy crap, Brian. I mean, that would be...
you also have every tool. You want to write like Andrew Mayne? You literally, it's not like you don't have the blueprint. You have literally every tool. In fact,
have literally Andrew Mayne at my disposal.
Andrew's iMac from Coconut Creek. Like, literally the idea. And Andrew would give me stories and stuff and scripts to read from when I was in high school, right? But it was intermittent and not to the level that he writes now, because what changed is that he was just like, all right, let me write one thing, and gave it to me, and I talked with him about it, and we went back and forth, and that first thing was Grendel Shadow, right? Like, and it went through some processes, and it went through some revisions, but ultimately that was that. And then past that, it's like, it ain't. It's like, how do you lose weight? Expend more calories than you take in. How do you become a good writer? Just keep writing. And what Andrew did was write a book, read a book, write a book, read a book. And I wish we were able to give the big punchline, but it worked out. Yeah.
No, that's okay. I think you guys have effectively challenged me. So, in fact, my pick will be. Everybody pick something that's outside of their comfort zone and go for it.
Well, hey, you want to? I had this idea. So what about this? Because everybody everybody on this podcast has a skeptical, leering eye toward like New Year's resolutions and stuff like that. That obviously they're. Can be a little bit of just itching the part of your brain that wants to do something without actually doing something and all that. But here's what I would say. Here's what I would challenge. Do your New Year's resolution for After Things now. Say, what can I be doing from now until New Year's? You can see to the end of it, right? It's not that far. That by the time that New Year's comes around, you're like, this isn't a resolution. This is something that I've already been doing, and I'm going to take to the next level in the next calendar year. Like, do that. And so, Brian, if this is the writer New Year's resolution, then start writing, right?
Maybe it is.
By 2018, either it's either out, and now you're focused on the next thing that you want to go down on this journey with, or it's putting the finishing touches on getting ready to put out what you're doing. But I think start now. So by the time that that everything comes around, everybody's talking about the great blue impossible thing. Like, even if it's losing weight, get the gym membership now, right?
Yeah.
Start going now, get used to it. So at least it's not as
And by the way, tell yourself that you're not really starting your resolution. What you're doing is you're just getting ready for when the New Year's resolution
exactly.
happens.
You're preparing for your New Year's resolution by doing your New Year's resolution.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's actually, there's some pretty good science to back that up. There's case studies of people who are like, oh, I'm supposed to walk a mile every day or whatever, and they just won't do it. And they said, new rule, your only rule is to put on your walking suit, put on your running clothes. That's all you have to do. That is and it's like, once you put on the running clothes, you're like, well, it would just be dumb for me to not go running now. And it's like, and so likewise, when it comes to the dieting stuff, it's like, my job is not to eat only broccoli and carrots. My job is I have one job, and that's to set those in front of me every single day when I'm sitting at the table or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, start with that, and then totally. That was for me. Like, I, on my own, reached that, like, if I just put on my running clothes, my walking clothes for going, I'm like, I'll just do it. Or my gym clothes, like, I'll just go to the gym now. I'll just do this. And when dieting, the best thing that works for me is, don't say, oh, I can't have that, but like, well, just go get the salad with the chicken breast on it first. Just have that, and if you're still hungry, eat whatever you want.
Yep. Yeah, that's a really good trick. Is just say, rules are you can have anything you want after you do blank, and then you do blank, and it's like, I don't really want that now. He's like, is that how that worked out? Did it?
So if you want, guys, audience, ladies, everybody, robots, tell us what what the step up you want to do is. What's your next big step? Tell us what your thing is.
Hey, a quick question. This is out of nowhere, but somebody didn't like in my email that we said the word ladies. She thought that was a misogynist term, and I will grant her that it was in. There were two lines. There was one line that says it makes the ladies swoon, but the next line said, and the fellas too, they just won't admit it. So it was something that used an old trope and then immediately cast a spotlight on like what an old trope that is. But she was just like makes the ladies swoon. Well, you're a big old jerk, aren't you? And is ladies a misogynist word for ladies?
You can be offended by whatever you want. And or did you intend to offend? Did you intend to offend?
No, certainly not.
All right. And then is it something that we've discussed or we've been made aware of that is popular as ladies and gentlemen offensive?
Exactly. It was like, and that's what I expressed to her. I was just like, I've spent 20 years saying ladies and gentlemen. You're telling me I've been a secret sexist the whole time? I don't know.
I listen. We don't want to offend anybody, and the problem is everybody has their own personal vocabulary. There are ones that we broadly accept as larger vocabularies, like, there are words I won't say even in private company, N-word, things like this, because I don't want to say these things, and I try to be conscious of this sometimes. It's like I'll describe, my Jessica Blackwood books. I'll say, she's a woman or she's a female, and be like, oh, a female. I'm like, well, it's often in law enforcement things, you tend to put those things before there. And I think the problem is often people don't look to see was their intent. And I don't know, but everybody there, you get so many. I've had somebody wrote me a letter like, oh, you had your character refer to herself as girl. I have women friends, lady friends, women friends who use that. That's their inner monologue. And I was told I was wrong to do this. And I'm like, I was very truthful about people I talk to about how they do their inner monologues. And I'm being told that I was wrong. And I was, as a man, I'm like, I researched that. And I understand that for this particular woman, that's not how she sees herself. And when she came across that got in her craw. But I'm like, I can name you the person that I spoke to about this inner monologue and how she talks to herself. And this is what she said she used. I'm like, okay, do you like this? She's like, yes, I like this. So guess what? Everybody can have their own personal vocabulary of what makes them offended. But the first question is, was there an intent to offend? And two, is it that universal, or is that just somebody saying, this gets me up? And maybe, I mean, I'm open to the idea that I'm wrong on these things, but I'm noticing there is this people are much more eager to say, hey, this, and this. And there are cases, I'm guilty of saying a lot of stupid things and using terms and things without thinking about that could be hurtful or whatever to people. And it's not my intent. And I know I've got my own limited perspective, but this was an issue where this was something I went out of my way to make sure, but I had one person's one person out of, about 100,000 had an offense to this and decided it was universal.
Yeah, well, and I guess that's the bitter irony, of course, is that we're offended. We, the people writing the thing, are offended that they assume it's universal, but also they're offended because in their version of reality, they're ascribing onto the author of the materials worldliness that maybe we don't actually have. How about that?
Or we're being accused. That's the problem. Is I was being accused of maybe having these negative. Maybe I possessed it, but it was started off with an accusation of that, and that's what that was bothering to me. Is like, you didn't ask how I meant this or what I meant. You just made this assumption that I was trying to be paternalistic or this or whatever. And to me, that's not fair. That's not cool.
This is. I don't think I'm over projecting here, but man, how great would it be if all three of us were the type of people that could just be totally not bothered by somebody saying that kind of thing. And then and I know all three of us are working on it, but it's like, how great would it be to just feel man, that's a real bummer that you read it that way.
Well, that was my
reaction.
I do think
it didn't come up until now. It didn't come up. I read this. I'm like, there's no reason for me to respond. And then it came. You brought. I'm like, oh yeah, here's this thing. I'm like, yeah, and I'm done. I mean, to me, it's like I'm a very lucky guy. I have all of the privilege cards you can imagine. I get this. I know this. I'm also a guy that tries to count those every day and pay attention to the fact of like, hey, you know what? Let's look at it from somebody else's point of view. Let's look at it from somebody else's point of view. Let's check your behavior. And there are a number of times, I did a lecture yesterday and I made some comment about, I made two comments that I'm like, you know what? These could be perceived as perhaps, a little more chauvinistic than I meant. And they were the most slightest things in the world, but in this environment. And I'm also like, everybody knows, if you know me, you know what I meant. But people who don't know me know what I meant. I'm living in a world where those people are going to be the first ones to judge me.
Sure.
So.
Well, I mean, this has been probably the most fascinating question that I've seen, that I've loved thinking about in my life, is communication. And it's as when I used to do stand up in college, and I'd be like, man, I think these jokes are really, really funny. And when I tell them in a certain way, people laugh, and in another way they don't. Or there's just a difference between the communication of where the audience is and where you are. In your case, Brian, we had a private conversation about a situation where whether or not there is it would best to email or to talk in person with somebody, right? And my point was, I just oftentimes find email to breed the kind of stuff that you just said. Where it's like, in one person's point of view, it means a certain thing. In your point of view, you're like, oh my God, not only did it not mean that, I was trying to make a point on that. I was trying to exploit that trope, which I think if we're both in agreement that is a trope that needs to be exploited and turned on its head, then it is doubly offensive that you would think of me the agent of the other side. That level of communication and the idea that what you say is not what is heard on the other side, not what is seen on the other side so often, to me is just fascinating. It is the answer to so many problems in life, is like, there is a fidelity issue in reality, and what you believe and can have very, very, very compelling evidence to prove is the way that this is, or you meant it, doesn't mean that in that moment it was not read the other way for a million different reasons.
Yeah. And it's not like that's going to fix itself at any time soon.
It's reality.
Yeah.
It is the life we live in. We fool ourselves into thinking that, if oh, well, I said this, look at this. Let me break it down. It's a perfect look. I have all. I've accounted for the remainders. It's all here. But for some people, you saying 2 means them hearing 3.
Yeah, I mean it's in a fast social media environment. We live in an age where you can very quickly make accusations and have them go around and put people on defensive. And there are, we're seeing now a lot of just very bad behaviors finally get attention to, this and that. And, and there is the problem, though, when we conflate, a poor choice of words to somebody who is a horrible, horrible monster, or what appears to you to be a poor choice of words or whatever. And again, people now have their own personal vocabularies of what this means and stuff. And I'm like, what's the intent? What's the intent? I'll share stuff with Justin. There was a thing about, I forgot what it was, is, like Halloween costumes for kids, what's appropriate, because hear this like, is it appropriate for a kid to dress up like Mona, and it's like, that's a contentious debate. And it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, like, I think it's great that we have, we're getting more heroes of all different ethnicities and colors and backgrounds and stuff. And I like the idea that any little kid could look up to them and say, I want to be like them. It's not because of the color of their skin or ethnicity. It's because of their character. And I think that's a great thing. But there are other people like, well, it's cultural appropriation. And it's like, yeah, you can call it that. Maybe. I mean, all cultures appropriation. And I understand, too, if you come from a culture where you've watched a lot of be eroded away, you're sensitive to the idea of things you feel like something's being taken away from you, that this is you identify with this and you feel a sense of ownership on that. And I get that, I mean, I don't feel that, but I get that. I understand there's a reason why people feel these days, So
yeah.
Was there a resolution to that email you received about the email, or did you respond?
I was given homework of read this article about why the word lady is inappropriate, and I was checkmated at that moment because my bandwidth does not allow me.
Well,
so that person
if
sent
you're
you
at the
that
point, hey, you have to go read this thing to find out, because it's hard I can't explain in a sentence or
Sure.
2 or 3. You need to go look up this thing, read this study, and find out why I was offended.
Right.
Well, would the conversation be different if the person just said, "Hey, that using it in that context offended me," rather than whatever accusation element or whatever?
Well,
how would you respond to someone?
And
"Hey,
that's
you
the unfortunate
hurt me
thing
with
is that in a parallel universe where everybody got on the same page, I would imagine it would go like, hey, I don't know if you realize what you did, but you inadvertently offended me. Here's the reasons that I know this. We're friends, so let me guide you through this journey of enlightenment. Now you understand why saying, ladies is probably not great for some people. But instead, that's not how it went. It went like, ladies, eye roll. And I was like,
Sure.
oh, I'm sorry, did I miss a thing? And it's like, why don't you get woke? Here's an article.
Sure.
And then
I'm posing the hypothetical to be any element of guidance for people who are listening to this and want maybe an idea of how to respond when someone says you offended them personally.
I don't really. I mean, apparently, I haven't handled it to completion or very well. But basically, I said, is ladies an offensive term? I've used it for 20 years on stage. If it is an offensive term, then I would like very much to understand why. And the answer I got was like, read this.
Yeah.
And then followed by a week later.
Okay.
Did you ever
In
read
my
that
opinion-
novel I sent you?
Yeah, I think they lost the argument at that point. I think that there are a number of terms that we can pretty much understand why this is, hey, I'm going to use some pejoratives and that we could use. And I know there's lots of things there you should know. Like, nobody tomorrow there's going to be which fraternity decided that blackface was a funny idea. And they're going to be publicly shamed. And at this point, I'm totally cool with that because guess what, folks? Straight up blackface, not a good idea. Clearly offends, but there will be people who didn't know. And that all right, I'm not going to defend not knowing that, because
Yeah.
that's just, how could you possibly at this point not know that? Again, maybe you're 17 and you're dumb. I don't know. But there are other terms. It's like, yeah, I don't think, like, hey, Brian, you live with women. Have any of them ever pointed out that term is?
No, not so much.
Yeah. And I've
if they do, they're grounded.
Yeah, I've been called out for using female because, like, oh, well, this means this. Like, do you think I meant that? I'm like, well, no. I'm like, then why is that offensive?
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, though, I think with stuff like that, I've always found that the best thing is not to debate whether or not it is to explain my intentions in saying it and opening up, a dialogue on like, hey, look, totally understand if you find it offensive. This is what I was trying to do. I usually start from the probably cowardly defensive position of like, this was my point and I apologize for failing in making it. But I don't know. I mean, I think that those arguments so often are just unwinnable.
That's it. That's when it's a person decides that, yes, is it offensive to that person? 100%. Does that mean that you should not use that word because a person the first time in your 40 years of life has told you they're offended by it? It's like, I don't know. I mean, if I hear a couple more people say, hey, maybe you shouldn't use that, and reasonable people, I'll be like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm getting it. Because I don't know if the person that I'm talking to is a super hypersensitive person, and there are people who just, will look for counting offenses, and there are people who do that because they've been dealing with a lot of them, and I don't know, but I'm like, yeah, if I pick up some more signals on this, I'll pay attention. But if it's an outlier, then maybe it's not me.
Yep, agreed. Hey, do we have picks?
Surely. My pick is Google SketchUp. Actually, I've been using it. I got a new 3D printer, and I've actually been working on another project. I've been using it. It's been great I use it actually in production design and stuff too, for like designing magic props and stage and stuff. SketchUp is, I think there's still a free version. Not sure, but it was originally owned. It was separate, got bought by Google, then it got sold by Google. But it was a very useful program for just doing, it's an architectural CAD design program, so it's very fast. So I like SketchUp a lot. It's an extrusion based, so
right on.
I just used it the other day for something really quick, so I liked it.
I have a dumb app that I'm just obsessed with, and I'm gonna blame Brant Hughes for getting me stuck on it. But it's a little game called Balls, BALLZ. It feels a bit like a Breakout, only you keep earning more balls that hit down more blocks, and they're very satisfying when the balls hit the blocks, and then the blocks go away and numbers go down, and you feel like you've achieved something when deep in your heart of hearts you know that you're a fraud and you haven't done anything, and it's been 3 hours and you've eaten a salad at Flora's Mexican restaurant.
We can all relate to that, Brian.
I'm just saying, I want to make it universal, all right?
My pick is this weird acid trip of a game, Super Mario Odyssey for the Switch. It is getting a lot of good attention, and I think rightfully so. It is incredibly creative and inventive, and I am almost positive it's a metaphor for heroin recovery.
Right on.
Delightful.
So you play games now, huh, Justin?
I do. I have a Switch. I streamed a game. Yeah. No, it's
in a watch me play.
It's a thing. What was that?
Watch me play.
My term, watch me play. Cool.
Sweet.
It's been after.
Peace.
All right. Bye.
Cool.
All right, gang.
Brian, do you have a plan for your writing your book, like a schedule or whatever? Or?
No, because I only got called out 20 minutes ago, so I'm gonna need some time to put that all together. But I think I should.
Suggestion: composition notebook.
Yeah.
Pen. When you go to lunch is planning. Remember, your notepad's great for characters. Your notepad's great for all those little details that you want to have figured out when you sit down to write.
I guess that's what I need. Is I should commit to just making the bones. Like, what are the structural elements? Yeah, that works.
Conflict, character resolution.
Yeah. Right on.
All right.
I'm
Well,
excited. I'm excited.
You're gonna draw it out of me, and you know the story. You know the world that I want to portray it in.
I think like, and then we get Justin writing, because then imagine if we became the new Grand Old Men. You know.
I mean, put
I'll tell you what.
put what you just
Ryan-
said in quotes and say and attribute it to all grand old men throughout all of history. At some
How
point,
about this,
all of them
Ryan?
have said that.
If you do it, if you commit to writing by the end of the year, I'll write another another
like,
short story.
I didn't want to sidetrack us, but how fun, simple, easy, and engaging would a Diamond Club anthology science fiction thing be, or whatever? Like
we
just
sure haven't
everybody.
got enough writers.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like let's just get all the writers and people in chat realm, who are aspiring to make that journey. Let's all make an anthology and then sell it to ourselves.
Okay, that's fine, but
this is about you, Brian.
Okay,
Don't
all
deflect,
right. Yes.
You
All
don't
right.
get to
look
jump-
at what he tries to do here.
right?
What if we all
We
try
all
to do
write.
that? What if instead of writing this book that I talked about doing, I just commit to a short story and everybody else has to write one in a longer time frame
hold
of
my feet to
delivery?
the fire, and you're right
Yeah,
to do
oops.
so.
Oh, guys, wait! You all have your stories in? Oh man, tell you what, crazy
All
stuff
right,
with
the
the family. I'm not
introduction.
gonna be able to make it.
Fair enough. All right. Well, having said that, I'm gonna get ready for cord killing.
That's right.
All
We'll
right,
see,
peace
Bye.
out.
see you later.
Bye, everybody.